Chosen one, something brought you here today, and it was not random. You did not stumble upon this message by accident. There are no accidents at your level of awareness. What guided you here is the same quiet intelligence that has been guiding your steps for years. The part of you that knows things before you can explain them, that recognizes truth before you have analyzed it, that wakes you in the early hours with a knowing too deep for words. You have felt that. You know exactly what I am describing. And the fact that you are here right now, in this moment, receiving these words, is itself evidence of the thing I am about to name. Today, I want to talk to you about something most people in spiritual spaces will never fully name, not because it is hidden from them, because they have not yet reached the place where it becomes visible. The place I am talking about has a name, and once you hear it, once you understand what it means and what it has cost you to arrive here, you will recognize that you are already standing in it, not approaching it from a distance, not working toward it as a future goal, already in it, already living it, already embodying it in ways you may not have had a framework to describe until this very moment. It is called the Sophia Stage, and it is the final stage of awakening. Sophia is a Greek word. It means wisdom, not knowledge, not information, not the accumulation of spiritual practices or the mastering of sacred texts. Wisdom, the kind that cannot be taught in a classroom or downloaded from a podcast or absorbed from reading. The kind that comes through fire, through silence, through seasons of being profoundly misunderstood, through the long and often painful schooling of a life that refused to let you stay comfortable when comfort would have stunted you. The kind that cannot be purchased or rushed or performed for an audience. The kind that settles into you so completely, so permanently, that you begin to move through the world differently than you once did. Not faster, deeper, not louder, truer. 1. Not more confident in the performance of certainty, more settled in the reality of it. Most people on a spiritual path move through several stages before they arrive here. There is an early stage of awakening, when something first cracks open and you realize that the world is bigger and more layered than you were taught. That the surface of things is not the whole of things, that there is a current running beneath ordinary experience that most people never consciously access. There is a middle stage of purification, when everything that no longer belongs in your life begins to fall away, sometimes painfully, sometimes suddenly, sometimes in a way that leaves you wondering whether you are being dismantled or prepared for something you cannot yet see. There are seasons of confusion and seasons of clarity. Seasons when the spiritual path feels like the greatest gift you have ever been given, and seasons when it feels like a demolition site with no clear blueprint and no visible architect. There are seasons when you could see the destination clearly, and seasons when the fog was so complete that you could not trust your own perceptions. Seasons of abundance and seasons of stripping, seasons of profound connection and seasons of necessary solitude that felt more like exile than sanctuary, until you understood what the solitude was building in you. And through all of that, through every stage that came before this one, the soul was being shaped. Every loss pruned something that did not belong. Every confusion clarified something deeper than the question itself. Every season of waiting built something in you that the next season could not have reached if it had arrived sooner. The formation was not wasted. It was not punishment. It was not evidence that something had gone wrong. It was the curriculum of someone being prepared for the Sophia Stage. The curriculum of someone being prepared to arrive. But the Sophia Stage itself is different from all the stages that preceded it. It is not a stage of searching. It is not a stage of striving. It is not a stage of accumulation or preparation or patient endurance. It is the stage of arrival, The stage where the noise finally quiets and what remains is the truth of who you actually are, not the performed version, not the version shaped by what others needed you to be, by what the culture said was acceptable, by what survival required you to become in earlier seasons when you could not afford the full cost of authenticity. The real version, the deep version, the irreducible version that was there before the world got to you. The version that knows things without being taught. The version that can feel the weight of a room without a word being spoken. The version that has been waiting for you to stop apologizing for it and simply inhabit it fully. That is what the Sophia Stage is, not a destination in the future, a recognition of what is already true. And here is what I want you to understand from the very beginning of this message. The Sophia Stage is not something you are still trying to reach. You have already arrived. The 7 signs I am going to share with you today are not aspirational goals for the future. They are descriptive markers of the present. They describe something that is already true about you. And as I name each one, I want you to feel the recognition land in your body, not just your mind. Because this kind of knowing is not intellectual, it is somatic. It lives in the chest, in the gut, in the quiet hum of recognition that moves through you when something true is spoken directly to your experience and your body already knows it, before your mind can form a complete thought around it. This is not a list of things to achieve. This is a map of where you already are. If you feel something stir when I say that, if there is a part of you that already knows I am right, type the words Sophia Stage in the comments right now. Let it be your declaration. Let it be the moment you stop treating your awakening as a future event and start receiving it as your present reality. The Sophia Stage does not wait for you to acknowledge it in order to be real, but your acknowledgement of it changes how fully you inhabit it, how clearly you can see yourself within it, and how completely you can live from it rather than perpetually reaching for it as though it were still somewhere ahead. Now let us begin with the first sign. The first sign that you have already reached the Sophia Stage is this: you stopped needing external validation. Not in a detached way, not in a wall-building way, not in the way of someone who has learned to suppress or disguise the need for love or connection or belonging, in a deeper way. The need for someone else to confirm your knowing before you trust it has quietly dissolved. You still value other people. You still welcome wise counsel. You still hold space for perspectives that challenge you and sharpen your thinking. But the approval of others has stopped being the oxygen that your decisions breathe. And that is a shift that most people never make, no matter how long they walk a spiritual path or how sincere their intentions along the way. Think about what that actually means in the lived texture of daily experience. For most of your life, there was probably a gap between what you sensed was true and what you were willing to act on. A gap filled with waiting for someone to agree with you, waiting for confirmation from a person you respected, from circumstances that aligned conveniently, from signs that lined up just right before you would trust the direction you were already being pulled toward. You had the knowing, but you did not fully trust the knowing until it was ratified by something outside of yourself. You needed the echo before you would trust the voice. That gap is one of the most costly places a person can live, because what it means is that you are perpetually one step behind your own guidance. The knowing arrives, full and clear and directional, and then you spend days, weeks, sometimes months building a case for it externally before you allow yourself to honor it internally. And during that time, the window often closes, the moment passes. The opening that was available contracts. The provision that was near moves on to someone who was willing to receive it without requiring consensus first. In the Sophia Stage, that gap closes. Not because you have become arrogant, not because you have decided the opinions of others are worthless, but because you have developed what I call the inner confirmation system, a settled, practiced relationship with your own knowing that operates independently of what anyone else thinks or says or validates. You consult others. You listen with genuine openness. You remain teachable in the deepest sense, but you no longer require their agreement before you move. The knowing is enough. The knowing has become its own authority in your life. And the track record of acting from that knowing, even when it made no apparent logical sense to the people around you, has built a relationship with yourself that nothing external can replicate or undermine. You have tested it over years of real decisions. You have seen it prove itself in the outcomes that followed. And that proof is not pride. It is the natural consequence of learning to trust, the most reliable instrument available to you. The knowing that the Sophia Stage has clarified and stabilized. Let me name something specific, something I have observed consistently in people who have genuinely reached this place. You probably stopped asking for permission years ago, not dramatically, quietly. There was no announcement. There was no formal declaration of independence from the approval of others. You simply began making decisions from a place of interior clarity that felt qualitatively different from the decisions you had made in earlier seasons. The decisions before were made from a combination of knowing and fear. The decisions now are made from knowing alone. Fear still shows up sometimes, but it no longer has the authority to override the knowing. It has been reclassified, not expelled, reclassified, from a commander to an informant. And what happened around you when that shift occurred? Things started working differently, not because the external world changed first, because you changed the relationship between your inner world and your actions. You stopped second-guessing your discernment long enough for your discernment to actually guide your life. And the results proved themselves over time in ways that were sometimes quiet and sometimes undeniable. Not every outcome was easy. Not every outcome was the one you had imagined or hoped for. But every outcome was true. And you found that living from truth, even when it was difficult, was infinitely more nourishing than living from approval, even when approval was comfortable and easily available. Now, here is what most people miss about this sign. The absence of the need for external validation does not mean the absence of desire for genuine connection. You still want to be understood. You still appreciate being truly seen by someone who can perceive you at depth. You still feel the particular warmth of authentic recognition when someone actually gets who you are, without requiring you to shrink yourself to be comprehensible. The difference is that being understood is no longer the prerequisite for action. You act from your knowing, and let understanding follow, if it will. If it does, beautiful. If it does not, you act anyway. You are not arrogant, you are anchored, and those are completely different things. Arrogance refuses to listen. Anchored people listen deeply and then act from their center regardless. You are that person. That is who the long formation of the Sophia Stage has made you. That is sign 1. The inner confirmation system is fully live in you. It has been guiding you for longer than you may have consciously recognized, and it is one of the most reliable indicators that you are operating in the Sophia Stage. If you recognize yourself in that, if you know what it feels like to operate from that place of inner confirmation that does not require outside permission before it acts, type "I know" in the comments right now, because that knowing itself is part of the proof. And the willingness to name it publicly without waiting for someone to validate it first is the inner confirmation system doing exactly what it was built to do. Before we go to sign 2, I need to hold something in front of you, something I am going to return to later in this message that is directly relevant to everything we are discussing about the Sophia Stage. Over the past several years, Something has been discovered in research laboratories that most people who care deeply about the things we have been discussing today have never been told about. Not because it contradicts what is sacred, because it came from a direction most of us are not watching. A small group of neuroscientists, led by a doctor in New York who has spent 2 decades focused on this specific area, found something about the way the human brain is designed that explains something most spiritually sensitive people have felt but have never been able to fully name. Something so fundamental that it traces back to a Nobel Prize, yet so elegant in its practical application that it sounds almost too simple at first. I am going to tell you exactly what they found later in this message, but right now, hold this question as we continue. What if the reason you have been able to arrive at the Sophia Stage spiritually is not the full story? What if the complete expression of this stage requires something else to come fully online? Hold that question. We will return to it before this message ends. The second sign that you have already reached the Sophia Stage is this. Silence became louder than noise. This is one of the most misunderstood signs from the outside because it can look like withdrawal. It can look like you have become antisocial or spiritually superior or simply exhausted by the demands of other people. None of those things are true. What is actually happening is something far more precise and far more beautiful. Your relationship with stimulation has fundamentally shifted at the most foundational level. The thing you are drawn toward has changed, and that change is not a consequence of aging or burnout or disappointment. It is a consequence of depth that has been earned through every season of formation you have walked through to arrive here. Most people live in a chronic state of noise, not just auditory noise, but the internal noise of constant mental commentary, the noise of other people's opinions filling the available space of a day until there is no room left for your own knowing. The noise of busyness used deliberately as insulation from the discomfort of depth and the stillness that depth requires. For most of the population, silence is uncomfortable. It needs to be filled immediately. It is the space where anxiety surfaces, where uncomfortable truths become audible, where the self has to face itself without the mercy of distraction. So, people fill it, compulsively, with scrolling, with background stimulation, with anything that keeps the quiet at bay and the real questions at a safe distance. But for someone in the Sophia Stage, silence is not empty. Silence is full. It is where you receive the clearest transmissions. It is where the deepest knowing arrives without effort. It is where the next right step becomes obvious, not because you have thought your way to it, but because in the absence of noise, it simply appears with a clarity that reasoning alone could never produce. The silence has become generative. It has become the most productive state you inhabit. Not because you are doing anything in it, but because something is being done through you in it. There was probably a time when you needed the television on in the background to feel comfortable, or music filling the room at all times, or some form of social stimulation to feel regulated and safe. That need has changed. Not because you forced yourself to stop, because silence stopped feeling threatening and started feeling like home. Because what was waiting for you in the quiet turned out to be more interesting, more alive, more genuinely nourishing than most of what the noise was offering. Think about the conversations you are drawn to now versus the ones you found satisfying in earlier seasons. There is a different quality of depth required. Small talk, performed connection, conversations that move along the surface without touching anything real. They do not just fail to satisfy you, they drain you, because at your level of awareness, you can feel the shape of what is not being spoken as clearly as you hear what is. You know when a room is performing and when it is present. You feel the gap between the conversation on the surface and the reality underneath it. That sensitivity is not a burden even when it has sometimes felt like one. It is a gift of the Sophia Stage. This is not superiority. This is sensitivity that has deepened past the point of pretending. The Sophia Stage requires a particular honesty with yourself about what actually nourishes you. And most of what the modern world markets as connection does not nourish someone at your depth, because it was designed for a shallower register of human experience. You have moved beyond that register, not because you decided to, because your nature evolved past the point where it could be satisfied by it. Silence is where you access the deeper current, and the fact that you have learned to dwell in it, to seek it out proactively, to protect it as the most valuable resource in your daily life, is the second sign that you have already arrived at the final stage of awakening. You are not lonely in the quiet, you are whole in it. Silence is not absence for you, it is presence. Pure, undiluted, truthful presence. I know something specific about you. I know that some of you have been the only one in your household who seeks this quality of depth. You have sat at tables where everyone around you seemed genuinely satisfied with the surface of things, and you have carried the quiet weight of being different in a way you could not always explain to the people closest to you. You have sometimes wondered if your need for depth was a complication rather than a calling. It was not a complication, it was the early formation of a capacity that belongs to the Sophia Stage. The need for depth was the Sophia awareness trying to emerge before the season was fully prepared to hold it. It was not a flaw in your design. It was a prophecy about the person you were becoming. The wisest human being recorded across the sacred traditions, Solomon, whose name became synonymous with divine wisdom in 3 of the oldest spiritual lineages on earth, wrote that wisdom calls out not in the marketplace of noise, but in the quiet places, in the still spaces between words. The ancient Greek principle of Sophia was not an achievement to be won. It was a presence to be attuned to, and those who were attuned to it did not seek the loudest rooms. They sought the truest ones. You have attuned to it, not without struggle, not without seasons when the noise won temporarily, but genuinely, deeply, and consistently enough that the quiet has become your most reliable teacher. That is sign 2. If you know what it feels like when silence speaks more clearly than all the noise around you, type Sophia stillness in the comments right now. Because the person who can rest in that silence without flinching is not the person they were 5 years ago. That person has been formed by something real, and their relationship with the quiet is one of the most reliable pieces of evidence that the Sophia Stage is not something they are approaching. It is something they are already living. You are still here. You have been listening at a depth that most people will not go. That itself is the sign confirming itself in real time. Stay with me. Now, I want to deepen something we began with sign 2 before we move forward, because the relationship between silence and the Sophia Stage is not just about personal preference or temperament, it is about architecture. The Sophia Stage is architecturally dependent on the ability to access quiet. This is not because silence is spiritually superior to sound or activity or engagement with the world. It is because the signal that the Sophia Stage transmits is a quiet signal. It is not designed to compete with noise. It is designed to be received in the space that opens when noise recedes. Think about the distinction between a radio signal and the receiver that picks it up. The signal exists regardless of whether any receiver is tuned to it. But whether the receiver picks it up depends entirely on whether it is properly calibrated and whether the environment around it has enough quiet for the signal to be audible. The Sophia Stage is the signal. The practice of silence is the calibration of the receiver, and every time you choose silence over noise, you are not retreating from life. You are tuning the instrument of your awareness to a frequency that changes everything you touch when you re-engage. This is why people who have been in the Sophia Stage for some time find that even brief periods of deliberate silence, even 5 minutes of genuine quiet in the middle of a demanding day, produce a quality of knowing and clarity that hours of analysis and effort and strategic thinking cannot match. It is not that thinking is wrong. It is that thinking without the grounding of silence is like trying to navigate by dead reckoning without ever looking up at the stars. You can make progress, but you are always slightly off course in ways that compound over time. The person who has arrived at the Sophia stage has learned, usually through some painful experiences of navigating by pure logic and arriving somewhere they did not intend to be, that the quiet recalibration is not a luxury. It is a necessity. It is the practice that keeps the inner confirmation system calibrated, and the depth discernment sharp, and the Kairos orientation reliable. And the fact that you have come to understand this, that you have reorganized at least some portion of your life around the priority of accessing this quality of quiet, is the second sign operating in full expression. Not the presence of silence as an incidental feature of your life, the deliberate cultivation of it as the most important resource in your operating system. That is, the Sophia stage relationship with quiet. And that is what sign 2 is actually pointing to in you. Now I want to add one more dimension to what we have discussed so far before we continue to sign 3, because there is a layer of this that the spiritual community rarely addresses honestly. The relationship between depth and solitude that the Sophia stage requires is often confused with loneliness, and the two experiences can look similar from the outside. Both involve spending more time alone than the average person. Both involve a reduced tolerance for certain kinds of social engagement. Both can produce a surface-level appearance of withdrawal, but they are fundamentally different experiences from the inside. Loneliness is the pain of unwanted solitude. It is the experience of being alone when you wish you were not. It carries a quality of absence, of something missing that should be present, of a gap between the connection you desire and the connection you have. Solitude, as the Sophia stage practices it, is the completely different experience of chosen quiet, of deliberately creating the conditions in which the deeper signal can be received. It is not the absence of what you want, it is the presence of what you need. And the person who has reached the Sophia stage has developed a relationship with solitude that is more similar to the relationship a master craftsman has with the focused silence of deep work than it is to the painful quiet of someone who is isolated against their will. You know the difference between these two experiences. You have probably felt both, and you know which one characterizes your current relationship with the quiet. If it is the chosen kind, the generative kind, the kind that produces rather than diminishes, then that is the second sign of the Sophia stage, operating exactly as it was designed. And here is the encouragement I want to offer you about this. The world will sometimes misread your preference for depth as a preference for absence. Your community may sometimes interpret your need for quiet as a need for distance. The people who love you may occasionally wonder if you are withdrawing from them when you are actually withdrawing toward yourself. And the temptation in those moments is to apologize for the depth, to perform a level of extroversion that does not actually belong to your current stage, to sacrifice the silence that the Sophia stage requires in order to reassure others that you are still the version of yourself they remember. The Sophia stage asks you to resist that temptation, not by being unkind about your need for quiet, not by making others feel rejected because your operating system requires something different from what they expected, but by being clear about what you need and trusting that the people who are genuinely aligned with your current stage will understand it. The ones who cannot make room for the depth you now inhabit may be pointing you, gently and without malice, toward the natural pruning we will discuss when we reach sign 6. For now, receive this. Your silence is not antisocial. It is pro-depth. Your solitude is not failure of connection. It is success at the kind of connection the Sophia Stage requires. Connection with the deeper current. Connection with the knowing. Connection with the source of the wisdom that the Sophia Stage is designed to carry into the world. And the world needs what you will bring back from the quiet. The quiet is where you are being prepared to speak. That is the full picture of sign 2, and it is one of the most consistent and most reliable markers of the Sophia Stage that I have observed in people who have genuinely arrived here. The third sign that you have already reached the Sophia Stage is this. You see through surface-level spirituality, and this one takes a particular kind of courage to name honestly, because it touches something that even spiritually sincere people rarely admit out loud, and because the seeing itself can become a source of isolation if it is not carried with the right kind of wisdom. There was a time in your journey when performance and depth looked similar enough that you could not always tell them apart. When the person with the loudest declarations seemed like the most spiritual person in the room. When the one with the most complex theological vocabulary or the most elaborate ritual practice seemed to have arrived at something you were still reaching for. When the aesthetics of spiritual community, the right language, the right practices, the right kind of certainty projected with the right kind of confidence, felt like evidence of depth rather than occasionally substituting for it. That time has passed. Something shifted in you, quietly and permanently, and now you can feel the difference between depth and its performance, not in a judgmental way, not in a way that makes you feel superior to people in earlier stages of their journey, but in the way that someone who has tasted real food can tell the difference between nourishment and the appearance of it. You know the difference, and you cannot unknow it. What does this look like in practice? It looks like this. You can sit in a room where everyone is saying the right things and feel that something essential is missing. You can listen to a speaker with perfect delivery and know, in a place deeper than analysis, that the words have not traveled through the speaker before reaching the audience. You can recognize the performance of transformation without the evidence of it in the way the person actually lives and moves and relates. And you can do this not because you are critical or spiritually superior, but because your own journey through genuine transformation has given you a reference point that performance cannot replicate. This is what I call the depth discernment, the capacity to perceive the difference between what is real and what is merely convincing. And it is a capacity that emerges naturally in the Sophia Stage, because the Sophia Stage is characterized by the arrival of genuine wisdom, and genuine wisdom knows its own reflection when it sees it, and knows the absence of that reflection just as clearly. Let me be honest about something that comes with this sign. It can be lonely. When you have moved past the level of spiritual community that is satisfied with the performance, you sometimes find yourself in a kind of solitude that is different from the preferred quiet we discussed with sign 2. This is the solitude of having outgrown the container you were once nourished by, of looking at spaces that were once home and realizing that you require something the space can no longer offer, not because the space is bad, because you have grown. And here is the reframe that the Sophia Stage makes possible. The longing you feel in those moments is not homesickness for something you lost. It is a compass pointing. It is not telling you that you went wrong. It is telling you the direction of what is next. It is Sophia herself orienting you toward the level of depth that your current stage requires. Trust the longing. Do not mistake the discomfort of having outgrown a container for evidence that you have gone wrong. You have gone right. You have gone deeper. And depth always requires a new container eventually. The third sign is confirmed in you. You see through surface-level spirituality not because you have become cynical, but because you have become genuinely clear. Clarity and cynicism look similar from the outside. They feel completely different from the inside. You know which one this is. If you recognize that discernment in yourself, if you know what it feels like to sense the difference between depth and its performance, type SOPIA clarity in the comments. Because the person who can hold that discernment without using it as a weapon, who can see clearly without becoming hard, who can distinguish without dismissing, is someone who has genuinely arrived at a mature stage of awakening. Now, before we continue to sign 4, I want to name something important that is relevant to many of you listening right now, because I know that some of you who have been on this path for a long time have tried many things. You have walked paths that promised depth and delivered something shallower. You have been sincere in your seeking and have sometimes found yourself in spaces that were sincere in their presentation, but limited in their actual substance. And something in you developed what I call the veteran response. The quiet inner guard that goes up when something sounds too complete, too certain, too packaged. The part of you that has heard similar things before and carries the memory of having been disappointed by what seemed true at the time. If that is you, I want to name it directly and with complete respect. That guard is not your enemy. It is evidence of the depth discernment we just named as sign 3. The question is not whether the guard exists. The question is whether the guard is responding to this specific thing in front of you right now, or whether it is applying a general pattern that it developed in response to something else. Discernment that can distinguish belongs to the Sophia stage. Reactivity that applies a blanket response belongs to a defense mechanism. You know the difference. The invitation I am offering is not to lower the guard. It is to let the guard watch closely and report honestly on what it is actually seeing, rather than activating the pattern before the evidence is in. The Sophia stage holds discernment alongside genuine openness. It can be appropriately cautious about a specific thing without being closed to all things. It has learned to distinguish between the pattern that led to disappointment and the presence of something genuinely different. That distinction, the Sophia stage, veteran discernment that has matured into wisdom rather than calcifying into closure. The fourth sign that you have already reached the Sophia stage is this: time feels different to you. This is one of the most profound and least discussed signs of the Sophia stage. And to understand it fully, I need to give you a distinction that comes from the ancient Greek language itself, because the Greeks had 2 completely different words for time, and the modern world has collapsed them into one, and that collapse has created a kind of chronic, low-grade disorientation for spiritually sensitive people that they often cannot name until they have the framework to describe it. The first Greek word for time is chronos. Chronos is clock time, sequential time. The time that measures, that counts, that assigns worth based on how long something has taken or how much has been produced in a given unit. Chronos says you are behind or ahead. Chronos says you are early or late relative to someone else's timeline or to the schedule that the culture handed you. Chronos says your worth is partly a function of your productivity within its framework, and most of the modern world runs entirely on Chronos. The alarm clock, the deadline, the promotion timeline, the comparison of where you are at your age versus where someone else was at theirs. Chronos is the grammar of the anxious mind, and most people spend their entire lives inside it without ever knowing there was another option. But there is a second word. The second Greek word for time is Kairos. Kairos is not sequential. Kairos is the appointed moment, the right time. The time that is determined not by the clock, but by readiness, by ripeness, by the alignment of the inner and outer conditions for something to arrive that could not have arrived before that specific convergence of circumstances. Kairos is not a point on a timeline. Kairos is a quality of a moment, and it cannot be manufactured, hurried, or engineered by effort alone. It can only be recognized and inhabited. And here is the profound thing that happens in the Sophia stage. You begin to live primarily from Kairos time rather than Chronos time, not by abandoning the practical requirements of a life lived in a world that runs on clocks and calendars, but by releasing the internal tyranny of Chronos as the final arbiter of your worth and your progress. You stop measuring your life by the timeline others are running on. You stop feeling behind according to a schedule that was never actually calibrated to your specific calling. You start trusting that what has not yet arrived is not late. It is Kairos. It is gathering the conditions required for its arrival to be complete rather than merely timely. Think about how you experience waiting now versus how you experienced it in earlier seasons. There was probably a time when waiting felt like failure, when delay felt like punishment or evidence of divine neglect, or proof that something was wrong with you or with your faith. Now the experience has changed. Waiting has a quality of preparation in it, a sense that something is being made ready, either in you or in the circumstances, that is necessary for the next arrival to be received fully rather than partially. You have developed what I call the Kairos orientation, the ability to inhabit the present moment of a season without treating it as evidence of deficiency. Chronos is slow addition. 1 + 1 = 2. 1 day + 1 day = 2 days, and you measure your progress in increments. Kairos is multiplication. One aligned moment plus the source equals a transformation that 1,000 Chronos days could not have produced. One right conversation. One right decision made from the inner confirmation system. One season of silence that prepared you for a word that changed everything in a single afternoon. That is Kairos, and you have been living in it. You have seen it work. You have experienced the multiplication that happens when a moment is truly appointed. If you know what Kairos time feels like, if you have experienced the difference between a moment that is merely sequential and a moment that is appointed, type Kairos time in the comments right now, because naming it is the beginning of inhabiting it more fully. And full inhabitation of Kairos time is one of the most significant gifts that the Sophia stage brings. Now I want to return to the question I asked you to hold earlier, because what I told you about the research laboratory discovery is directly connected to the Kairos orientation. The ability to inhabit Kairos time fully, to be genuinely present in the appointed moment rather than always processing it through the anxious filter of Chronos, requires something specific. It requires a quality of whole attention, of being genuinely available to the moment rather than perpetually living slightly ahead of it or slightly behind it in the anxious management of past and future. And the research team in New York discovered that this quality of whole attention, this capacity to be fully present in Kairos rather than perpetually pulled by Chronos, is connected to something specific in the way the two halves of the human brain are designed to work together. We are approaching the place in this message where I am going to close that loop for you completely. But first, I want to name the remaining signs, because they are the final confirmation of where you already are. And by the time we have named all 7, you will understand why the question of full embodiment is not a detour from this message. It is the destination of it. The 5th sign that you have already reached the Sophia stage is this: you attract without trying. This is the sign that causes the most confusion from a logical standpoint, because the conventional understanding of how outcomes are produced says that what you receive is proportional to what you pursue. That attraction is the result of strategy and action and visible movement. And while none of those things are wrong in every context, the Sophia Stage introduces a different operating principle that sits alongside them and in certain circumstances supersedes them entirely. In the Sophia Stage, synchronicities increase without a proportional increase in effort. Things find you. People who are precisely relevant to your next season appear at moments that logic cannot fully account for. Conversations open doors that no calculated networking could have engineered. Resources arrive through channels that were not on your map. Opportunities present themselves in the space between one thing ending and another beginning, in the moments where your Chronos mind would be calculating loss and your Kairos awareness is simply present and available to receive what has been arranged. This is not magic in the superstitious sense. This is the physics of alignment. When the inner life is coherent, when the two aspects of the self, the deep knowing and the surface doing, are operating from the same center, the field around a person changes, not metaphorically, actually. The way you carry yourself changes, the quality of your attention changes, the kind of energy you bring into a room changes. And that change in your field creates different conditions for what can find you. Think about the last time something arrived in your life that you cannot fully account for by strategy alone. A connection, an opportunity, a piece of information, a conversation that came at precisely the right moment to answer a question you had been carrying for months. Did you engineer that? Did you plan for it? Did you pursue it through a calculated sequence of actions? In most cases, the answer is no. You were simply present. You were in the right state of openness. You were aligned enough for it to land. That is the Sophia principle at work, and it has been working in your life for longer than you may have fully recognized. The Sophia Stage does not eliminate effort. It transforms the relationship between effort and outcome. Effort in the Sophia Stage is directed by the inner confirmation system rather than by fear or social pressure or the compulsive activity of Chronos anxiety. It is focused effort, aligned effort, effort that flows from knowing rather than effort that compensates for doubt. And that kind of effort creates a completely different quality of field. The synchronicities are not separate from the effort. They are the response of the universe to the specific quality of effort that comes from genuine alignment. If you have noticed this in your life, if you have experienced the increase in meaningful synchronicities without a corresponding increase in striving, type Sophia attracts in the comments, because recognizing it clearly is part of how you cooperate with it consciously rather than accidentally. Now let me close the product awareness loop I opened, because we have now named 5 signs, and the pattern I want you to see is this. Every single one of these signs, the inner confirmation system, the preference for depth over noise, the depth discernment, the Kairos orientation, the magnetism of genuine alignment, every one of them requires the full operation of what I call the dual intelligence. The analytical and the intuitive working together. The left hemisphere and the right hemisphere of the brain operating in genuine synchronization rather than in the fragmented, competing state that modern life creates. What happens when you are in true whole brain synchronization is not just more clarity. It is a qualitatively different kind of clarity. The analytical mind can see the pattern, and the intuitive mind can feel the meaning of the pattern simultaneously. The logical assessment and the Sophia knowing arrive together rather than in the conflicted sequence that produces second guessing. And the result is not just better decisions, it is the experience of being fully yourself in every domain simultaneously, not the spiritual self in one room and the practical self in another, the whole self, integrated and coherent and available. That whole brain synchronization is what the research team in New York built a specific tool to restore, and we are going to discuss it fully before this message closes. But right now, I want to acknowledge where you are, because two more signs remain, and they are the most important of all. The sixth sign that you have already reached the Sophia stage is this: old relationships dissolve without drama. This is one of the signs that causes the most grief, even when people understand it intellectually. Because it is not that you stopped caring about people. It is not that you became cold or disconnected or spiritually indifferent to the people who were part of your journey. It is that the natural alignment of your life, as it has deepened and clarified through the Sophia stage, has created conditions where certain connections simply cannot be sustained at the same intensity or the same kind of intimacy they once were. Not because anyone did anything wrong, because you have moved into a different field, and fields have their own natural dynamics of resonance and dissonance. I call this the natural pruning. It is the process by which the Sophia stage, without your deliberate decision or your emotional violence, allows relationships that belong to earlier seasons to complete themselves and release, while deepening the ones that are genuinely aligned with where you now are. This is not abandonment. This is ecology. Every living system that grows must release what no longer belongs to its current stage of growth, not as a punishment to what is released, as a necessary condition of what is growing. Think about the relationships in your life that have quietly faded in recent years, not ended in conflict, not terminated in drama or confrontation, or the kind of rupture that produces a clear story about what went wrong, simply drifted naturally and organically to a greater distance. In some of those cases, you may have felt guilty. You may have wondered whether you should have tried harder to maintain them, whether there was something lacking in you that allowed a connection to fade without more fight. Here is the truth the Sophia stage offers about those situations. The natural pruning is an act of love, not a failure of it. Because relationships that are maintained past their season, through obligation or guilt or the fear of disappointing someone, do not actually serve either person. They keep both people anchored to a version of each other that neither of them fully inhabits any longer. They create a kind of relational fossil, the appearance of connection without the living substance of it. And the energy that goes into maintaining that fossil is energy that neither person gets to bring to the connections that are genuinely alive for them. The Sophia stage allows relationships to be honest about their season, and the grace that characterizes this stage means that this honesty happens without cruelty, without dramatic rupture, without the performance of spiritual evolution that would make the other person feel discarded or left behind. It happens the way seasons change, gradually, with warmth for what was, without forcing what is no longer natural. And what remains in your relational field after the natural pruning? The ones who can see you now, not the version of you that was formed by earlier seasons, the version of you that the Sophia stage has made real. Those connections are different from what you have known before. They are not based on shared history alone, though shared history may be part of them. They are based on shared depth. And shared depth is a foundation that history alone can never build. If you have experienced the natural pruning, if you have felt the quiet release of connections that belong to earlier seasons, type SOPIA releases in the comments. Because honoring what has been released, rather than grieving it indefinitely as evidence of your own failure, is one of the most powerful acts available to someone in the Sophia stage. Now, I want to close the loop that has been open since early in this message, because we are approaching the moment in this message where the open question I asked you to hold is going to receive its answer. And I want to make sure you are fully present for it, because it connects directly to everything we have been discussing about who you are and what you are carrying. Over the past several years, something has been discovered in research laboratories that most people in spiritual communities have never been told about. not because it contradicts what is sacred, because it came from a direction most of us are not watching. From the world of clinical neuroscience rather than the world of spiritual practice, in 1981, a researcher named Dr. Roger Sperry received the Nobel Prize for his work on the two hemispheres of the human brain. What he discovered was that these are not simply two halves of a single processing system. They are two distinct modes of consciousness that, when they operate in genuine synchronization, produce capacities that neither hemisphere can produce alone. The analytical depth of the left hemisphere, combined with the intuitive depth of the right, when synchronized, produces a quality of whole brain knowing. That is the neurological basis for what spiritual traditions have called wisdom and insight, and the voice of the higher self, and the inner knowing that guides. 98% of children operate at this level of synchronized, whole brain genius in early childhood. Less than 1 in 1,000 adults maintain it, not because the capacity disappears. Because the conditions of modern life gradually interrupt the synchronization between the two hemispheres, the analytical mind begins to crowd out the intuitive. The linear begins to suppress the knowing. The genius is not gone. The switch that connects it has been partially turned off. A woman from California described what it felt like before she encountered what I am about to describe. She had done everything right spiritually, every practice her community offered, and she kept arriving at the same experience. She believed the words. She could not feel the reality behind them, not in her body, not in the lived texture of her days. She was in the Sophia Stage spiritually, but her experience of it felt incomplete, like receiving a transmission through static. 10 days after she began using what I am about to describe, something cleared. A channel that had been partially blocked was suddenly open, not because she tried harder, because the receiver had been repaired. A man from Texas described something similar. Someone who had held everything together for everyone around him while his own interior life had become thin and distant. He said prayer had started to feel like speaking into a wall. The intention was right, but something in the circuit was incomplete. 2 weeks after he began, he described his mind as running on all of what it was supposed to run on. The fog that had been so consistent he had stopped registering it as fog was simply gone. That is because of what the team I am about to name in full discovered. A team of neuroscientists led by Dr. Daniel Barone in New York spent years doing the following. They took over an hour of clinical neural synchronization technology, the kind of whole brain activation protocol used in specialized medical settings, and through an intensive process of compression and refinement, they distilled it into an 8-minute targeted auditory sequence, 8 minutes a day, headphones, eyes closed. That is the entirety of the physical requirement. They call it the Genius Switch. It is not a sound frequency product, not a meditation app, not a sound frequency designed to put you in a particular mood. It is a targeted auditory sequence, specifically engineered based on the Nobel Prize research of Dr. Roger Sperry, to reconnect the two hemispheres and restore the whole brain activation that was the default state of your childhood mind. The state in which your inner confirmation system, your depth discernment, your Kairos orientation, all the capacities of the Sophia Stage, are not just spiritually present but neurologically supported at full capacity. The Genius Switch is not for everyone. It is for the chosen one who understands that the source prepared not only the calling, but the mind that must walk into it. The person who has been sincere for years, who has done the work, who has felt the call clearly, and kept returning to it even when the evidence was not cooperating, who is willing to stop treating any residual fog or incompleteness as a character flaw and start treating it as something that has a specific address and a specific solution. Most people who encounter something that sounds like what I just described will scroll past. They have accepted the reduced version of their mind as permanent, as simply how things are, as the inevitable consequence of age or stress or the accumulated demands of life. You are still here. You have been listening for this entire message at a depth that most people will not sustain. That is not coincidence. That is the specific kind of persistence that belongs to the person this was built for. Let me tell you what this looks like in practical terms before we continue to sign 7. Colleagues of Dr. Barone, who reviewed his work, described it as incredible value, even at $500. In-person neurofeedback, the clinical equivalent of what it delivers, runs at $300 per session. A home neurofeedback machine that provides a fraction of what this delivers costs $7,000. What Dr. Barone and his team built is available at $49, and on the specific page this message points to, there is an additional $10 off, $39. That is not the number of something cheap, that is the number of something made deliberately accessible, because Dr. Barone and his team did not build this for the wealthy, they built it for the sincere. The person who has done the work and is ready for the neurological piece to complete what the spiritual formation has already built. 4 bonuses come with it at that price. A guided visualization created by one of the top-rated teachers on the Calm app, designed to help you see your life unfolding in 4 areas at once. A smart grocery guide that names the 10 most common foods that create brain fog and gives you 5 shortcuts that can save you over $100 a month at the stores you already shop at. A manifestation text that is more than 100 years old and is the source from which most modern manifestation teaching draws, available at $20 on its own, included free. And a 5 habits infographic designed beautifully that you can print and place where you will see it daily. The entire thing is backed by an unconditional money-back guarantee. Listen once, listen 80 times. If it does not do what it has done for 18,456 people, every dollar is returned. No conditions, no questions, no complication. One thing worth naming directly. If you search online for anything that sounds similar, you will find products that carry similar language. Dr. Barone and his team studied many of them. Most had no neural synchronization technology embedded at all. They carried the name because the barrier to labeling something that way is essentially zero. The mechanism is what makes the difference. And the mechanism only exists in what his team built through years of clinical refinement. The link in the description below and in the pinned comment points to the only verified source. If your spirit resonates with what has been described, the path is in the description below and in the pinned comment, not anywhere else. You can read everything on their page before making any decision. Every detail is laid out clearly. The tool does not replace the depth you have built. It does not replace the discernment you have developed through years of formation. It does not replace the knowing that has been shaped through the long seasons of your journey. What it does is give all of that knowing a neurological infrastructure that is fully synchronized with what the spirit has already arrived at. The Sophia Stage is already real in you. The tool simply ensures that the brain has caught up completely to where the soul already is. And for the chosen one who felt something stir when that was described, who felt the recognition of incompleteness meeting a description of its solution, that door remains open in the description below. It is a small step, but small steps taken from the Sophia Stage, taken from the inner confirmation system rather than from fear or impulse, have changed entire seasons for people who were exactly where you are. Now let us return to the teaching, because the 6th and 7th signs deserve the full attention they are owed, and there is more to name before we close. Let me introduce you to a framework that I call the 3 alignment keys. not as steps towards something you have not yet reached, because you have already reached the Sophia stage, but as a structure for inhabiting what you have arrived at with increasing depth and increasing intentionality. Because the Sophia stage is not just a description of qualities you have developed, it is also a practice. And the practice, like all practices, can be done more fully or less fully, depending on the clarity of the structure you are working within. The first alignment key is deliberate stillness, not the passive stillness of someone who has retreated from engagement with the world. Deliberate stillness. The practiced, proactive choice to create conditions in which the Sophia awareness can speak clearly and be heard completely. This looks like protecting the quiet, not just enjoying it when it happens to be present, but actively creating the conditions for it. It looks like beginning each day in some form of silence before the demands of the day begin their particular noise. It looks like recognizing that the most important conversations in your life are not between you and other people. They are between you and the knowing that the Sophia stage has made accessible. The second alignment key is courageous honesty, not the performance of honesty, not the version that is honest about small things while managing the larger ones, but genuine honesty with the full knowing of the inner confirmation system. The willingness to tell the truth about what your discernment is actually indicating, even when the truth is inconvenient, even when acting on it will require a courage that earlier versions of you did not fully have access to, even when the truth is not what the people around you are hoping to hear. The Sophia stage makes truth more visible. Courageous honesty is the commitment to act on what becomes visible rather than managing it to something more comfortable. The third alignment key is sovereign receiving. This is the practice of actually taking in what is arriving for you, of not deflecting the good when it comes, of not managing down the size of what is being offered by the universe to a scale that feels safer than the full size of what is being given, of not shrinking the incoming provision to something smaller than what was arranged, because the full size of it activates an old belief that says, you are not allowed to have this much. The Sophia stage increases what is available to you. Sovereign receiving is the discipline of standing in the full stream of that availability rather than stepping slightly to the side of it out of old conditioning. Deliberate stillness, courageous honesty, sovereign receiving. These three together form the practice of the Sophia stage, not as a path to arrive there, as a way to inhabit it at increasing depth and increasing fullness. Every day that you engage these three practices, you are not trying to become the Sophia stage person. You are exercising and expanding and deepening the reality of what you already are. Now, let me give you a moment to rest in what has been named, because before we continue to sign 7, I want you to actually feel what it means to have 6 signs confirmed in you, to have a framework that names what your journey has produced, to have words for what your experience has been pointing toward for years. You are not behind. You have not missed it. You have not taken a wrong turn that needs to be corrected before you can access what is real about you. You are already in the Sophia stage. You have been in it in some form for longer than you may have fully recognized. And the 6 signs we have named are not a standard you are trying to reach. They are a description of what is already true. Let that land before we continue. Let it move from the level of information you are receiving to the level of truth you are inhabiting. The Sophia stage is not a future identity. It is your present reality. Now, I want to offer you something that I have observed across many people who have arrived at this stage. There is a particular kind of temptation that comes specifically at the Sophia stage that does not exist in earlier stages. It is the temptation to minimize, to treat the depth you have arrived at as normal, as something everyone has or should have, as nothing worth acknowledging. To say things like, I have not really arrived anywhere. I am just doing my best. There is so much more I do not know. All of those things may be true in a technical sense. There is always more to know. There is always deeper to go. Humility is not wrong, but there is a form of humility that is actually a form of self-erasure. A form of honoring the source by refusing to honor what the source has built in you. And the Sophia Stage asks you to release that pattern, because the wisdom you are carrying is not your personal possession. It is something you are stewarding for others, and you cannot steward it well if you spend your energy minimizing it. You have arrived somewhere real, name it, not in arrogance, in faithfulness to what the formation has produced, faithfulness to what the source has built through the long seasons of your becoming. The sixth sign that you have already reached the Sophia Stage is this: old relationships dissolve without drama. I want to deepen this beyond the surface explanation because this sign has more layers than the brief description can hold, and because for many of you, this is the sign that has produced the most unexplained grief, the most unanswered questions, the most late-night wondering about whether something was wrong with you, whether you had failed someone, whether there was a way you should have tried harder to maintain a connection that was quietly completing itself. Let me start with the core truth, and then go deeper into the mechanism. The core truth is this: relationships are not lost in the Sophia Stage, they are completed. There is a difference between those two things that is not semantic, but experiential. A lost relationship carries the weight of something that should still be there and is not. A completed relationship carries a different quality, one of fullness, of something that ran its true course, of gratitude for what was, and a natural release into what is next for both people involved. The natural pruning that the Sophia Stage produces is not the result of you becoming cold or detached or spiritually indifferent to other people. It is the result of you becoming more honest, more genuinely present to what is real in a given relationship rather than what is historical about it. And that honesty, that presence, creates conditions where the relationships that are based primarily on history without shared depth begin to complete themselves naturally, not dramatically. Not through rupture or confrontation, through the honest gravitational pull of each person toward what actually nourishes them. Here is what I have observed about the natural pruning in people who have truly arrived at the Sophia Stage. The relationships that dissolve are almost always relationships where the connection was built on a shared earlier version of one or both people. Connections that formed in seasons of mutual struggle or mutual searching, or a shared context that was real at the time and has since transformed. The person you were when those relationships formed was genuine. The connection was genuine. But both of you have changed, and the change has taken you in directions that are no longer parallel. There is nothing wrong with either person in this scenario. There is nothing wrong with you for having moved in the direction the Sophia Stage has taken you. There is nothing wrong with them for remaining where they are, or moving in a different direction. The relationship simply belongs to a chapter that is complete, and the most loving thing available to both of you is to allow it to complete honestly, rather than maintaining the form of it past its natural season. What makes this a sign of the Sophia Stage specifically, rather than simply a sign of personal growth in general, is the quality of the release. In earlier stages, relationship endings almost always carried drama, conflict, negotiation, attempts to recapture what was lost, grief that extended for months or years. In the Sophia Stage, the release has a different quality. It is still felt. The Sophia Stage does not produce numbness, as we will discuss when we reach sign 7, but it is felt cleanly, without the accumulated charge of unprocessed emotion, without the need to assign blame or build a narrative that explains what went wrong. the relationship completed. Both people will find what they need going forward. And there is something quietly beautiful about that, even when it is also tender. The natural pruning also creates space that the Sophia stage immediately begins to fill with the connections that belong to your current field. The people who find you after the natural pruning has done its work are not versions of the previous connections rebuilt at a higher level. They are fundamentally different connections built on shared depth from the beginning, on mutual recognition of the Sophia awareness in each other, on the kind of seeing that does not require either person to shrink or perform or maintain a distance to stay comfortable. Those connections are rare. They are also extraordinarily nourishing, and they could not have found you while the older connections were occupying all the available space in your relational field. The natural pruning was not loss, it was preparation. If you have experienced this, if you know what it feels like when a connection completes itself without drama, and you find yourself holding a strange mixture of grief and relief that you could not quite explain to anyone who had not experienced the same thing, type Sophia releases in the comments right now, because naming the process is the beginning of making peace with it, and making peace with it is the beginning of being fully available for what the Sophia stage is preparing to bring in. Now, I want to address something that is alive in many of you right now, because some of you are in the middle of a natural pruning season right now, not looking back on connections that have already completed, living through the current experience of feeling relationships shift, of sensing that the alignment between yourself and certain people in your life is changing in ways that feel uncomfortable, of not quite knowing yet whether what you are sensing is the natural pruning or whether it is something you should be fighting to prevent. Here is the guidance the Sophia stage offers. The inner confirmation system knows the difference. The inner confirmation system can tell you whether the distance you are feeling in a relationship is the natural pruning, which requires your permission to complete itself, or whether it is a season of strain that a relationship can survive if both people are willing to do the work of renewal. The question is not whether you feel distance. The question is what the knowing underneath the feeling is actually saying. If the knowing is saying this connection has completed, honor that knowing. Not with cruelty, not with a formal ending if one is not necessary, but with the honest permission for the relationship to find its own natural level without you forcing it to remain at an intensity it has outgrown. If the knowing is saying this relationship has more in it and the current strain is a season rather than an ending, honor that instead. The inner confirmation system is reliable enough to tell you which is which. You simply have to ask it honestly and be willing to hear whatever it says. The Sophia stage does not give you easy relationships. It gives you honest ones. And honest relationships, even the ones that are honest about their completion, are infinitely more nourishing than comfortable ones that have outrun their season. Now, I want to give you something here that functions as a rest point before we reach the seventh and final sign, because the seventh sign is the most sophisticated of all, and I want you to arrive at it with the full quality of presence it deserves. So, for a moment, I want you to simply be where you are. You have heard 6 signs of the Sophia stage: the inner confirmation system, the preference for depth over noise, the depth discernment, the Kairos orientation, the magnetism of genuine alignment, the natural pruning. 6 signs that together paint a portrait of someone who has not merely improved their life or deepened their practice over time, but has arrived at a fundamentally different relationship with existence itself. A relationship characterized by wisdom, by depth, by clarity, by alignment, by the kind of authentic emotional intelligence that cannot be taught, but can be recognized once it has been earned. That is you, not a future version of you. The you that is here right now, in this moment, listening to these words, carrying everything that the long formation of your life has built in you. That is the Sophia Stage person. And everything that follows in this message, the seventh sign, the closing, what I am going to speak over your life before we end, belongs to that person. It belongs to you. Take a breath. Let that be true. Now I want to tell you something about what the Sophia Stage produces in the world beyond the interior life of the person who carries it. Because the 7 signs we have been naming are mostly internal. They describe qualities of the inner life. But the Sophia Stage is not only an interior achievement, it is an exterior gift. What you carry in the Sophia Stage, the wisdom, the stability, the depth of seeing, the quality of presence that comes from having done the real work, that does not stay contained in you. It moves through you, into the people near you, into the conversations you enter, into the environments you inhabit. Think about the effect your presence has on people around you when you are fully in the Sophia Stage. People feel something different when they are with you, not because you say anything extraordinary, because you carry something that has been genuinely earned. The person who is in the middle of their crisis, who sits down next to you and finds that something in your presence quiets the noise of their panic, is receiving the fruit of your formation. The wisdom you carry is not just available to you, it is available through you. And that is the purpose the Sophia Stage was preparing you for. Solomon did not receive wisdom merely for his own benefit. The account of his wisdom includes the detail that people came from every direction of the known world to sit in his presence and receive the benefit of what he had developed. Not because he performed wisdom, because he had actually arrived at it. The difference was palpable, the effect was real, and the people who needed what he carried found their way to him, not through marketing or strategy or the careful cultivation of a public image, but through the natural magnetism of genuine depth. That is, sign 5 operating at the societal level, and it is available to you, not at Solomon's scale necessarily, but in the sphere of your actual life and the actual people who cross your path. The Sophia Stage makes you a resource for others in ways that earlier stages could not, and recognizing that is not arrogance, it is stewardship. Now I want to go deeper into what makes the Sophia Stage not just a personal arrival but a communal gift. Because there is a teaching that belongs here, a teaching about the nature of wisdom and why the world is not simply better when wise people exist privately, but is transformed when wise people inhabit their Sophia Stage with full awareness and full intention. The ancient Greek tradition from which the word Sophia comes did not understand wisdom as a private possession. They understood it as a presence that moved through people who had been properly formed. The Sophia was not in the books. It was not in the rituals. It was in the person who had done the interior work necessary to become a vessel for it. And the measure of genuine Sophia was not how much the person knew, but what happened in the room when they entered it. This is the reason that the wisdom figures of every sacred tradition were not primarily known for their information. They were known for their presence, for what it felt like to be near them, for the quality of perception and clarity and stillness that they carried and that transferred to the people who came near them. Moses did not lead the people through 40 years of wilderness formation primarily by knowing the right things. He led them by carrying something. Joseph did not transform the culture of Egypt primarily through strategic intelligence. He carried something, and what they carried was the fruit of the very formation that the Sophia Stage produces. You are carrying something too. Perhaps you have not yet named it that clearly. Perhaps you have attributed the effect you have on others to personality or circumstance, or to being generally helpful. But the Sophia Stage person carries something specific that is not just helpfulness, it is wisdom. And wisdom in the room changes what is possible in the room. I want to give you a specific and practical frame for understanding what you are carrying, because the Sophia Stage is not just about feeling deeply and releasing old patterns and inhabiting the Kairos. It is also about contribution, about the specific gift that the Sophia Stage equips you to bring to the people in your sphere. The Sophia Stage person carries three things that most people in their sphere do not have in developed form. The first is the ability to hold the long view without losing compassion for the immediate. Most people can do one or the other. They can see the big picture, but become detached from the immediate suffering of the person in front of them, or they can be fully present to the immediate suffering but lose the perspective that would allow them to see what the suffering is producing. The Sophia Stage person holds both simultaneously, and that dual capacity is one of the rarest and most valuable things one human being can offer another. The second thing the Sophia Stage person carries is the capacity to remain stable when everything around them is moving, not because they are unaffected, because the sovereign response, which we will discuss when we reach sign 7, has developed enough that they can be moved without being swept. They can be present to the turbulence in a room without adding to it. They can hold ground without rigidity. And that quality of stable presence is something that people in crisis and people in transition and people who are lost in their own seasons of confusion need desperately and almost never know how to find. The third thing the Sophia Stage person carries is the ability to see what is actually happening rather than just what appears to be happening. The depth discernment, operating not just in spiritual contexts, but in relational and situational ones. The capacity to perceive the pattern beneath the event, the meaning beneath the crisis, the gift concealed in the difficulty. That seeing is not comfortable for everyone. Some people would rather not have the pattern named, but for those who are ready for it, the perception of the Sophia Stage person is one of the most transformative gifts available. You carry all three: the long view and the immediate compassion, the stable presence, the depth perception. You carry them not because you are special in a way that sets you apart from humanity, but because you have been formed enough to hold them. And the world in your sphere of influence is genuinely different because you are in it. That is worth receiving, not as flattery, as truth. And receiving that truth with the same openness you would bring to receiving any other form of provision that the source has arranged is itself an act of the sovereign receiving we discussed in the 3 alignment keys. And now, before we reach the 7th sign and the closing, I want to speak about something that belongs specifically to this moment in your journey. Because the Sophia Stage does not arrive once and stay the same. It deepens, it matures, it expands in direct proportion to the degree to which you inhabit it consciously. There is a difference between arriving at the Sophia Stage and living in the Sophia Stage with full awareness of what you are carrying and full intentionality about how you are using it. The arrival happens through the formation. The deepening is a choice. And the people who inhabit the Sophia Stage most fully are the people who have made a conscious decision to no longer minimize what has been built in them, to no longer apologize for the depth that the formation has produced, to no longer perform a lesser version of themselves in order to make others more comfortable. That choice, the choice to inhabit what you have been formed into without minimizing it, is itself one of the most significant acts available to someone in the Sophia Stage, because it changes not just your own experience of what you carry, it changes the accessibility of what you carry to the people who need it. A minimized Sophia Stage person is present in the room, but not fully available to the room. A fully inhabited Sophia Stage person changes what is possible in the room simply by being present without apology. You have done the formation. You have arrived. and the invitation of this moment is simply to inhabit what you have arrived at, with the same fullness and the same freedom that the formation was designed to produce. The seventh sign that you have already reached the Sophia stage is the most sophisticated of all, and it is the one that most directly addresses the question of what distinguishes genuine spiritual maturity from its imitation. The seventh sign is this: you feel everything but are controlled by nothing. Let me explain exactly what this means, because it sounds paradoxical at first, and because the common assumption in many spiritual traditions would actually point in the opposite direction. The common assumption is that the goal of awakening is to feel less, to achieve a kind of emotional neutrality that protects you from the turbulence of human experience, to become above it, to have moved past it, to have transcended it in a way that renders you impervious to what used to move you, to be unbothered, to be untouchable, to have arrived at a place where the human experience of pain and grief and anger and fear no longer has access to you. The Sophia stage teaches something completely different, and this is one of the places where the Sophia stage most clearly parts ways with the spiritual performance that Sign 3 has taught you to recognize. The Sophia stage is not a stage of reduced feeling. It is a stage of expanded feeling with mastery, not feeling less, feeling more fully, with more depth, with more genuine openness to the range of human experience, while simultaneously having developed enough interior space that what is felt does not govern the response. This is emotional mastery without numbness, and it is one of the most profound and most misunderstood achievements of a life genuinely lived in alignment with wisdom. Because it looks from the outside like someone who is always calm, always measured, always composed, and people sometimes assume this means the person does not feel deeply. The opposite is true. The person who has developed the sovereign response feels more deeply than most people around them. They are simply no longer at the mercy of what they feel. Most people, when they encounter pain or grief or anger or fear, have effectively two available responses. The first is to be controlled by the emotion, to be swept into it and act from within it, without the space of a conscious response between the feeling and the action, to say the thing that needs to be unsaid, to make the decision that needs to be unmade, to move in the direction of the impulse before the wisdom has had a chance to be consulted. The second available response is to suppress the emotion, to develop a kind of spiritual armor that prevents the feeling from landing fully in the first place, to maintain the appearance of composure by keeping the feeling at a distance that makes composure easy. The Sophia stage offers a third option that most people have never experienced and cannot easily imagine until they have felt it from the inside. The Sophia stage feels everything fully. The grief is real. The anger is real. The fear is real. The joy is luminous and genuine and not managed down to a level that feels safe. The love is deep and without the protective distance of someone who has learned to hold people at arm's length to avoid being hurt. Everything lands. Everything is felt with the full sensitivity of a person who has done the work to become genuinely open, and none of it controls the response. Because between the feeling and the response, there is a space that has been created through the long formation of the Sophia stage. A space that is not suppression, and is not distance, and is not the managed performance of spiritual composure for an audience. It is a real interior space that has been cleared of the automatic reactivity that governed earlier stages of development. And in that space, there is a moment of genuine choice. Not the calculated choice of someone trying to appear evolved. The natural, unhurried choice of someone who has learned to be sovereign within their own emotional experience. I call this the sovereign response, the capacity to feel fully without being determined by what is felt, to be moved without being swept, to be present to the turbulence without becoming part of it. And it is one of the most unmistakable markers of the Sophia stage, because it cannot be faked, it cannot be performed. It can only be arrived at through the long process of exactly the kind of formation the Sophia stage represents. And the person who tries to perform it without having done the formation produces something that the depth discernment immediately recognizes as hollow. Think about the last time you encountered something that would have sent earlier versions of you into an extended reactive period, into days of processing, into the swirl of self-reinforcing thoughts and feelings that could consume a week. What happened instead? There may have been a moment of real impact. The feeling may have landed fully and genuinely. And then something different happened. Something moved through you rather than capturing you. You felt it, and it did not become your permanent address. You were not immune to the impact. You were sovereign within it. The experience was complete, but it did not define your subsequent days the way it once would have. That is the sovereign response operating. That is sign 7 of the Sophia stage in action. Now, I want to go deeper into the mechanism of the sovereign response, because understanding it helps you inhabit it more fully. The sovereign response is not a technique. It is not something you do in the moment. It is something that has been built in you through the accumulated work of the formation seasons. Every time you sat with a difficult emotion, rather than running from it, you were building the interior space. Every time you chose to feel something fully, rather than suppressing it, you were expanding the capacity that now allows you to feel fully without being swept. Every time you processed something to its actual resolution, rather than managing it to a manageable level and moving on, you were clearing the space that now exists between the feeling and the response. The sovereign response is not an achievement you reached on a specific day. It is the cumulative result of every day you did the interior work. And it is available to you now, in every encounter, in every moment of emotional impact, because the work that built it is genuinely done, not perfectly. Not without the occasional moment when the reactivity returns briefly, but genuinely and substantially done. And here is the gift that the sovereign response offers to the people around you. When you are in a room with someone who is in crisis, and you can feel the full weight of their crisis without being pulled into the crisis yourself, you become a different kind of resource to them, not someone who tells them everything will be fine from a safe emotional distance, not someone who is swept into the crisis alongside them, someone who can be fully present to the reality of their suffering while holding the stability that the suffering cannot destabilize. That is what the Sophia stage person offers in a crisis. And it is one of the most genuinely rare and most genuinely valuable things one human being can offer another. If you recognize the sovereign response in yourself, if you know what it feels like to feel everything without being controlled by what you feel, type Sophia Sovereign in the comments right now. Because that capacity is not common, and naming it clearly is the beginning of bringing it to bear more intentionally in every dimension of your life. Now I want to bring all 7 signs together and show you the picture they paint when they are seen as a whole. Because individually, each sign is meaningful. But together, the 7 signs paint a portrait that is more specific and more significant than any one of them can convey alone. The inner confirmation system, the preference for depth, the depth discernment, the Kairos orientation, the magnetism of alignment, the natural pruning, the sovereign response. These are not 7 separate qualities that happen to develop independently in you. They are 7 facets of a single unified development. They are all expressions of the same fundamental transformation, the transformation from a person who is primarily defined by external conditions to a person who is primarily defined by interior truth. From someone whose experience is determined by what happens to them to someone whose experience is determined by who they have become, from someone who lives in reaction to someone who lives in response. That transformation has a name. You have been hearing it throughout this message. It is the Sophia Stage, and it is complete in you, not perfectly, not without areas that continue to deepen, but genuinely and unmistakably complete in the ways that matter most. Now, I want to introduce you to a wisdom figure who understood the Sophia Stage, not as an abstract concept, but as a living reality she inhabited through circumstances that most people would have found impossible to navigate. Mary Magdalene, in the oldest and most carefully preserved accounts of her role in the early spiritual community, was described as the one to whom wisdom was entrusted that the others had not yet been prepared to receive. Not because she was more important than anyone else, because she had done the deeper work of remaining present to what was real, when the easier path would have been to perform certainty or collapse into grief or seek the safety of numbers. What was she carrying? She was carrying exactly the 7 signs we have been naming, the inner confirmation system that told her what was true when no external authority was confirming it. The preference for depth over the performance of spiritual certainty, the depth discernment that could see past what appeared to be true to what actually was. The Kairos orientation that trusted what was being arranged even when the external evidence was at its most contradictory. The sovereign response in its most tested form, the capacity to feel the full weight of loss without being destroyed by it. She was not chosen because she had studied the most or held the highest position or been longest in the community. She was chosen because she had arrived at the place where studies and positions and years of community could no longer advance her, where what was required was not more information, but the capacity to be fully present to what the information pointed toward. That is the Sophia Stage in its most elemental form, and you are in it. What she carried was transferred to the people who came near her, not by lecture or instruction or the performance of wisdom, by presence. By the quality of being genuinely in the Sophia Stage and genuinely available from it. That transfer happens through you, too. Every conversation you enter from the Sophia Stage is a different kind of conversation than the ones around you are having. Every relationship you bring the full weight of your formation to is a different kind of relationship. Every space you enter with the sovereign response intact and the depth discernment active and the inner confirmation system live is a different kind of space than it was before you arrived. You are not just a recipient of the Sophia Stage. You are a carrier of it, and what you carry matters beyond you. Let me speak to the skeptic response that may be present in some of you right now, because I know that the depth and the sincerity of everything I have been naming can activate a particular kind of internal response in people who have been formed through disappointment. The response that says, "This sounds good, but I have heard things that sounded good before, and I need to be careful before I receive it completely." That response is not your enemy. It is the depth discernment in action, and I want to honor it by being completely honest with you. I am not asking you to lower your guard or suspend your discernment or receive any of this on faith alone. I am asking you to apply your discernment specifically, to ask not whether this sounds good, but whether it resonates as true. Not whether you can imagine it being true for someone else, but whether it is actually true for you specifically. Those are different questions, and the inner confirmation system is equipped to answer them. If the 7 signs we have named resonate as descriptions of your actual present experience rather than aspirational descriptions of someone else, then your discernment is confirming something real, not because I asked it to, because the description matches the reality. And the Sophia Stage person trusts that match. That is what the inner confirmation system is for. Now, I want to take you into the territory of what the Sophia Stage produces beyond the 7 signs, because the 7 signs are markers of arrival, but arrival is not the end of the story. It is the beginning of the most significant chapter of the story, the chapter where the formation becomes expression, where the depth becomes contribution, where the wisdom that has been developing through all the seasons of your becoming begins to move outward into the world in ways that earlier stages could not support. Think about what it means that you have arrived at the Sophia Stage. Think about what the formation has produced in you, the capacity to receive knowing directly and trust it completely, the ability to dwell in silence and receive from it, the gift of seeing past performance to what is real, the freedom to inhabit Kairos time and be released from the tyranny of Kronos, the magnetism that comes from genuine alignment, the grace to release what no longer belongs, the sovereign emotional presence that can hold everything without being swept by anything. These are not small things. These are the specific capacities that the world, in every generation and every cultural context, has needed from its wisdom carriers. These are the capacities that made Moses the person who could lead a people through the wilderness without losing himself in it. These are the capacities that made Solomon the person who could hold the weight of governance while maintaining the intimacy of genuine discernment. These are the capacities that made Mary Magdalene the person who could be trusted with what others were not yet prepared to receive. And they are the capacities that make you the person you are being positioned to be in your specific sphere, in your specific generation, in your specific set of relationships and responsibilities and opportunities. Not at the biblical scale, perhaps, but at the scale that has been assigned to you. And the scale that has been assigned to you is exactly the right scale for what you are carrying. Now let me give you a second wisdom figure who understood the Sophia Stage from a different angle, because multiple perspectives illuminate what a single perspective can only partially show. Solomon, who we have mentioned, understood the Sophia Stage from the inside of a position of extraordinary public responsibility. He carried wisdom into the context of governance, of judgment, of the management of an entire society. But there is another figure whose understanding of the Sophia Stage came from the inside of obscurity, of waiting, of the long season of formation that preceded any visible expression of the wisdom that was being built. Joseph, in the ancient account, was someone who received genuine knowing in the form of dreams before he had any platform to act on that knowing, before the circumstances of his life had arranged themselves to match the magnitude of what the dreams revealed. And in the gap between the knowing and its expression, he was subjected to exactly the kind of formation that produces the Sophia Stage, the betrayal by those closest to him, the years of unjust confinement, the experience of having the external evidence contradict absolutely everything that the knowing had indicated. And in that long season of apparent contradiction, what was happening? The inner confirmation system was being forged. The sovereign response was being developed through exactly the conditions most likely to destroy it, through injustice, through extended waiting, through the repeated experience of hope deferred. The Kairos orientation was being established through the experience of being on the universe's timeline rather than on any human timeline. The natural pruning was happening at the most fundamental level, stripping away every relationship, every context, every circumstance that belonged to an earlier chapter of his story. By the time the Kairos moment arrived, the moment when the external circumstances finally aligned with what the knowing had indicated from the beginning, he was fully formed for it, not just positioned, formed, capable of carrying what the position required. Equipped with the specific capacities that would have destroyed a lesser version of himself, the Sophia Stage was complete, and the expression that followed changed an entire civilization. Your formation has not been as dramatic as Joseph's, perhaps, or perhaps some of what you have walked through has been more dramatic than you have ever fully named out loud. Either way, the mechanism is the same. The formation that you have been through, the specific combination of tests and stripping and seasons of silence and seasons of contradiction, has been producing something. It has been producing the Sophia Stage person, and the Kairos moment for the full expression of what has been produced is not in the distant future. It is being assembled right now in the exact circumstances of your current life. The thing that has been arranged for you is not somewhere else. It is not waiting for a better version of you to show up. It is available to the version of you that is already in the Sophia Stage. The version that is here right now, listening to these words, carrying everything that the long formation has built. That version is the version the arrangement was designed for. Let me pause here for something that I call a light moment. Before we continue, I want you to do something simple. Put one hand on your chest, not as a ritual, as a physical act of acknowledgement. Feel the weight of your own hand on your own chest. Feel the warmth of it. Feel the steadiness underneath it. What you are touching is not just a body. It is the residence of everything the formation has built. The knowing is there. The discernment is there. The sovereign response is there. The Kairos orientation is there. The wisdom that the Sophia Stage has produced is housed in the person your hand is resting on right now, not in a concept, not in a possibility, in you, specifically, in this actual moment. Let yourself feel that for a moment, not as an intellectual exercise, as a somatic reality. This person, this specific person whose chest is rising and falling under your hand, is the Sophia Stage chosen one. This is the person who has been formed through fire and silence and confusion and clarity. This is the person who has been prepared for what is coming. This is the person the universe has been assembling through every season that came before this one. Let your hand stay there for another moment, and let what is true about you be received by the part of you that is most prone to minimizing it. Let it land in the body before we continue. Because what remains in this message belongs entirely to someone who has received this truth, not just heard it. Now, let me address something that is real for many of you, because some of you who are listening to this and recognizing the Sophia Stage in the 7 signs we have named are simultaneously aware of areas of your life that do not yet fully reflect the Sophia Stage. There are areas where the clarity is intermittent rather than consistent. Areas where the sovereign response still occasionally gives way to reactivity. Areas where the inner confirmation system gets temporarily overridden by the old anxious habit of seeking external confirmation. Areas where the Kairos orientation dissolves in the face of a particularly compelling Chronos comparison. This is not evidence that you have not arrived at the Sophia Stage. This is evidence that you are a human being in the Sophia Stage rather than a perfected being in the Sophia Stage. And those are different things. The Sophia Stage does not produce perfection. It produces wisdom, and wisdom knows the difference between the aspiration and the reality, and finds a way to hold both without using the gap between them as evidence of inadequacy. The areas where your experience of the Sophia Stage is not yet consistent are not negations of the Sophia Stage. They are the frontier of it. They are the places where the formation is still actively working, where the deepening that I mentioned earlier is still in process, where the full inhabitation of what has been arrived at is still being extended into domains that have been harder to reach. Trust the frontier. Do not treat the places where the formation is still working as evidence that the formation has failed. They are evidence that the formation is alive. A living formation continues to work until it is complete, and complete does not mean perfect. It means fully adequate for the calling. And the calling is what the Kairos moment has arranged. Now let me give you a vision, a specific detailed picture of what the full expression of your Sophia stage looks like in the actual circumstances of your life, not as an aspiration, but as a description of something that is already becoming real. Imagine yourself 6 months from now, not a fundamentally different person, the same person you are now, but inhabiting the Sophia stage with the full consciousness of someone who has received what has been named in this message. You wake in the morning and the first thing that arrives is not anxiety about the day, but a quality of knowing, a settled sense of what matters and what does not, of what belongs to this day and what can wait. The inner confirmation system is the first voice you hear before the demands of the schedule, before the noise of the world, before the opinions of anyone around you. You move through the day and you carry something that the people around you can feel without being able to fully name. A quality of presence, a stability that is not indifference, a depth that does not make you unavailable, but makes you more genuinely available than most people they encounter. The conversations you have are different from the ones happening around you, not because you are trying to make them different, because the Sophia stage in you meets the depth in others and creates conditions for something more real than they usually get to experience in an ordinary day. The challenges that come are felt fully. Nothing is bypassed or managed into numbness, but they move through you rather than capturing you. The sovereign response is the default rather than the achievement, not because something difficult never lands, but because when it does, you have the interior space to feel it, and then choose your response from the knowing rather than from the impact. And the synchronicities, the things that find you without being hunted, the connection that appears at exactly the right moment, the conversation that answers the question you have been carrying, the resource that becomes available precisely when the Kairos has made your alignment with it possible. These increase, not because you have adopted a strategy, because the Sophia stage at full expression creates the conditions for them to find you with increasing frequency and increasing precision. That is not a fantasy. That is the natural consequence of inhabiting the Sophia stage fully rather than partially. The vision is not the destination. It is the direction, and you are already moving toward it. Now let me offer you the recall that belongs here, because we are approaching the part of this message where the full picture comes together. If what was described about the research from Dr. Barone and his team resonated with you, if you felt the recognition of a specific piece of the puzzle that you had been sensing was missing, the door to that is still open in the description below. The tool described, the 8-minute auditory sequence built on the Nobel Prize research of Dr. Roger Sperry, is specifically designed for the person who has arrived at the Sophia stage spiritually, but wants the neurological infrastructure to match where the spirit has already gone. It is not for everyone. It is for the person who is still here, who has been listening at this depth, who recognize themselves in the 7 signs. If that is you, the link below is where the next step lives. The price we discussed, $39 for what in-person clinical settings charges hundreds per session, is only available on the specific page the link points to. And the guarantee we discussed, the unconditional money back, makes the risk of discovering whether it is right for you essentially zero. The resource is there. The choice belongs to the inner confirmation system, which by now you know how to trust. Now, let me continue into the territory of what the Sophia stage calls you toward in the next chapter of your life. Because we have spent significant time in this message naming where you are, I want to spend some time naming where the Sophia stage is pointed. The Sophia stage does not end with the 7 signs. The 7 signs are the confirmation of arrival. What follows arrival is the most important part. Because the Sophia stage was not produced by your formation so that you could simply be in the Sophia stage privately. It was produced so that what you carry in the Sophia stage could move through you into the world, into your specific sphere of influence, into the people and the circumstances and the calling that is being prepared to receive it. Think about what happens when a Sophia stage person steps fully into their calling. When the wisdom that has been built through years of formation is brought to bear with full intentionality on the specific area of life and work and relationship that the calling is pointed toward, the result is not incremental improvement, it is transformation. Not because of effort or strategy or the accumulation of the right resources, because wisdom applied to the right situation in the right season produces outcomes that are disproportionate to the input. Because the Kairos moment, when it is met by a Sophia stage person who is fully awake to what it is and fully available to what it is offering, produces results that Chronos time and Chronos effort could never manufacture. That is what is ahead for you, not as a distant possibility. As the natural consequence of inhabiting the Sophia stage fully in the current season, the formation was for this. The pruning was for this. The seasons of silence and confusion and stripping and clarity were all pointing toward this. The calling that is ahead of you is the thing that all of it was preparing you for. And you are ready for it, not perfectly, not without areas where the deepening continues, but genuinely, substantially, sufficiently ready. The Sophia stage has done its work in you, and what comes next is the expression of that work in the world. I want you to receive that, not as encouragement in the generic sense, as a specific truth about your specific life and your specific season. What is coming is worthy of what you have been formed to carry, and you have been formed to carry it. Now we arrive at the place in this message where the full weight of what has been named begins to settle. We have moved through 6 of the 7 signs. We have introduced the wisdom figures. We have named the 3 alignment keys. We have seen what the Sophia stage produces, both in the interior life and in the exterior contribution. And now I want to go even deeper into the 7th sign, because the 7th sign, the sovereign response, is not just one of the 7 markers. It is, in many ways, the one that the other 6 make possible. Let me tell you what I mean. The inner confirmation system requires the sovereign response. Because if you are still at the mercy of your emotions, the knowing and the emotion will conflict constantly, and you will be unable to trust which one is actually guiding you. The clarity of depth requires the sovereign response. Because without it, the discomfort of depth will be experienced as threat rather than invitation, and you will use the performance of spiritual composure as armor against the very depth that the Sophia stage is calling you into. The depth discernment requires the sovereign response, because without it, what you see will trigger reactivity that clouds the seeing. Every one of the 6 preceding signs becomes more fully available when the sovereign response is developed, because the sovereign response is not one quality among 7. It is the quality that allows all the others to operate at their full capacity. It is the interior spaciousness that makes the whole Sophia stage inhabitable rather than merely aspirable. And here is the teaching I want to give you about how the sovereign response actually works, because understanding its mechanism helps you inhabit it with increasing intentionality. The sovereign response is built on a specific internal practice that I call the space between. It is the practice of cultivating the pause between the stimulus and the response, not as a technique applied in the moment of impact, as a way of being that has been developed so consistently that it operates naturally, without effort, without deliberate application, as the default mode of the nervous system. Most people have no space between the stimulus and the response. The feeling arrives and the response follows immediately, automatically, in the same breath. The anger lands and the angry words follow. The fear arrives and the avoidant behavior follows. The pain arrives and the self-protective pattern engages. All of this happens beneath the level of conscious choice, because the space that would allow for conscious choice has not been developed. In the Sophia stage, the space between has been developed through every moment of the formation when you chose to feel something rather than act on it immediately. Through every season of silence where the practiced quiet of non-reactivity was being built into the nervous system. Through every encounter with a difficult emotion where you stayed present rather than running or suppressing or converting the emotion into immediate action. Each one of those moments was not just an experience you had. It was a construction project, a brick added to the interior space that now allows for the sovereign response. You have been building that space for years, and it is built, it is real, and it is available to you in every moment of impact you will encounter going forward. Not as a technique you need to remember to apply, as the natural default of a nervous system that has been trained by the formation into the spaciousness of the Sophia stage. Now, I want to give you a vision of what your life looks like when the sovereign response is operating at full expression, not in the easy moments, which are not the test, in the hard ones. There is a conversation coming in your life, not necessarily tomorrow, but within the season you are in. A conversation that would have, at an earlier point in your formation, activated the full force of your reactivity. A conversation that carries the specific kind of impact that your particular history has made you most vulnerable to. And in that conversation, because of what has been built in you, something different is going to happen. You are going to feel it fully. The impact is going to land without the armor of suppression or the distance of spiritual performance. And in the moment after it lands, there will be a space, a real interior space that has been created through everything you have walked through. And in that space, you are going to choose your response, not from the impact, from the knowing, from the wisdom that the Sophia stage has installed at the center of your operating system. And the response that comes from that space is going to change the direction of that conversation in a way that reactivity never could. That is what the sovereign response makes possible, not just in your own life, in the lives of the people on the other side of those conversations. Because the response that comes from the Sophia stage changes what is possible for both people in the room. It interrupts cycles that would otherwise repeat. It creates openings that reactivity always closes. It produces outcomes that are not available to the unformed version of that conversation. That is the gift the Sophia stage carries for the world through you. And the sovereign response is the mechanism through which it is delivered. If you want to carry that gift more fully into the conversations and the relationships and the callings that are ahead of you, type Sophia Sovereign in the comments one more time. Not because you need permission, because declaring it publicly is the sovereign response applied to the inner knowing about who you are. It is the practice of receiving truth about yourself without managing it down to something smaller. Now, let me take you into a practice, a guided mental activation that belongs specifically to where you are in the Sophia stage and specifically to what this message has been naming. I want to do this before we close, because what I want you to carry out of this message is not just information. It is an embodied experience of what you have been receiving intellectually. Close your eyes if that feels right, or simply soften your focus on whatever is in front of you, and take one breath that is slightly slower and slightly deeper than the breath you just took. Not a performance of breathing, just a genuine, deliberate intake and release. Feel the breath move through you. Feel the chest expand and soften. Feel the quality of your attention shift slightly toward the interior. Now, I want you to imagine that you are standing in a room that is completely quiet, not empty, quiet. There is a quality of presence in this room that is not noise and is not silence in the ordinary sense. It is the kind of silence that the Sophia Stage feels like when you are most fully in it. The kind of silence that is full rather than empty, generative rather than hollow, alive rather than absent. In this room, bring forward each of the 7 signs we have named today, not as a list you are reviewing, as qualities you are inhabiting simultaneously. The inner confirmation system, the settled knowing that does not require ratification, the love of depth, the generative relationship with silence, the depth discernment, the capacity to see what is real past what is performed, the Kairos orientation, the freedom from the tyranny of clock time, the magnetism of alignment, the synchronicities that find you, the grace of the natural pruning, the clean release of what belongs to earlier seasons, the sovereign response, the full feeling without the reactive following. Feel all 7 present at once, not as concepts you are thinking, as realities you are inhabiting. Let the knowing of all 7 land in the body simultaneously, in the chest, in the gut, in the steadiness underneath all of it. This is the Sophia Stage. This is where you are. This is what you are carrying. Now I want you to see yourself moving from this room into the next chapter of your life, carrying all of this, not as a burden, as a resource, as the foundation from which everything that is coming is going to be received and navigated and expressed. See yourself in that next chapter, fully in the Sophia Stage, fully inhabited, fully available. See the people who are going to receive what you carry. See the conversations that are going to be different because you were in them. See the outcomes that are going to be available that would not have been available to someone carrying less. This is not fantasy. This is Kairos time operating in the faculty of imagination. This is the inner confirmation system showing you the shape of what has been arranged. Stay in it for another breath. Let it become as real as this moment. Because it is as real as this moment, the Sophia Stage makes the future visible in a way that Chronos time never allows. Now take one more breath, and as you exhale, let whatever needs to be released from the burden of the past seasons release now. The unnecessary weight, the grief that has been held past its season, the comparison with timelines that were never calibrated to your calling, the performance of lesser than what you are. Let it all go with the exhale, and let what remains be exactly who you are in the Sophia Stage. Clean, settled, ready, whole. That is the guided activation, and that is the truth of where you are. Before we go to the closing, I want to acknowledge something that has been present in this message from the beginning, but that deserves a direct naming. The 7 signs we have named today are real. The Sophia Stage is real. The wisdom that has been built in you through the formation is real. But there is also the reality that most people who are in the Sophia Stage do not know they are in it. They experience the qualities, they live the signs, but they have been missing the framework that would allow them to receive what they have arrived at with full consciousness. This message was designed to give you that framework, not to tell you something you did not already know experientially, but to give language to what you have been living, to give a name to the stage you are in, to allow the recognition to become conscious and deliberate and fully inhabited. That is the specific gift this message was meant to carry. And if you received it in that spirit, then something important has shifted in how you see yourself and how fully you will inhabit what you already are. The Sophia Stage is not arriving. It is here. You are in it. You have been in it. And what comes next from the Sophia Stage is the most important chapter you have yet lived. Stay with me for the closing, because what remains is the most sacred part. Now I want to bring forward something that I have been building toward throughout this entire message, a teaching about the relationship between the Sophia Stage and what comes after it. Because many of you have been walking a spiritual path long enough that you have heard a great deal about awakening and very little about what awakening is for, what the arrival at the Sophia Stage means in terms of assignment, what the completion of the formation is pointing toward in terms of expression. Let me be clear about this, because it is one of the most important things I can say to someone who has arrived where you are. The Sophia Stage is not the end of the story. It is the beginning of the most significant chapter. Everything that came before it was preparation. Everything that comes after it is expression. And the expression that is available to a Sophia Stage person is qualitatively different from anything that was available in the formation seasons, because the formation seasons were characterized by being shaped, and the Sophia Stage is characterized by being ready to be sent. Sent into what? Sent into the specific sphere of influence that your calling encompasses, into the relationships that need what you carry, into the work that requires the depth discernment you have developed, into the conversations that only the sovereign response can navigate to the outcomes they are supposed to produce, into the seasons that only the Kairos orientation can recognize as appointed rather than accidental, sent specifically and precisely into the life that the formation was always preparing you for. And here is the timing truth that the Sophia Stage makes visible. The sending is not distant, it is happening now. The movement from formation to expression, from preparation to contribution, from the interior work to the exterior gift, that movement is not a future event, it is the current moment, right now, in the season you are in, with the relationships you already have, with the circumstances that already surround you. The expression begins now, from exactly where you are, with exactly what you are already carrying. This is one of the most important things the Kairos orientation teaches. The appointed moment is not somewhere else on the timeline. The appointed moment is the moment in which the Sophia Stage person recognizes it as appointed, and you are in that moment right now, not approaching it, in it. Let me give you something concrete. The 3 most important things you can do in the immediate season ahead, coming from the Sophia Stage and moving toward its full expression. The first is to stop waiting for permission. The inner confirmation system is live. It has been live. And every time you wait for external permission to act on what it is indicating, you are not being appropriately humble. You are being inappropriately obedient to a system, the system of external validation that the Sophia Stage has equipped you to move beyond. The permission you have been looking for is already present in the knowing. The knowing is enough. Act from it. The second is to let the natural pruning complete without resistance. Whatever relationships are in the process of completing themselves, let them complete. Do not force extensions past the season. Do not maintain connections through guilt that have run their natural course. Trust the pruning. The relationships that are completing to make room for the ones that belong to your next chapter. And the next chapter, relationships are more aligned, more nourishing, more genuinely supportive of who you are now than the previous chapter ones were designed to be. The third is to inhabit the sovereign response as a practice rather than waiting for it to appear automatically in moments of pressure. This means creating the conditions of deliberate stillness that we named in the 3 alignment keys. It means beginning each day in enough quiet that the space between is already present when the day begins to make its demands. It means practicing the awareness of the space between stimulus and response in low-stakes situations so that it is robustly available in high-stakes ones. The sovereign response is not a trait you either have or do not have. It is a capacity that is maintained or diminished by the daily practices that either cultivate the interior space or crowd it. Stop waiting for permission. Let the pruning complete. Practice the sovereign response deliberately. These 3 practical actions, taken from the Sophia stage with the full consciousness of what you are carrying, will accelerate the movement from formation to expression in ways that are visible within the season you are in. Now, I want to speak to something that is true about many of you right now, and that I want to name with complete honesty before we close. Some of you are in the middle of a season that does not look like the Sophia stage from the outside. Not because the Sophia stage is not real in you. Because the external circumstances of your life have not yet caught up to where the interior life has arrived, the season looks like delay or confusion or incompleteness or circumstances that are still waiting to resolve. And in the middle of that external picture, the internal truth of the Sophia stage can feel like something you are holding in theory but not yet living in practice. I want to say something specific to you. The Sophia stage does not require the external circumstances to confirm it. This is one of the most important distinctions between the Sophia stage and every earlier stage of development. In earlier stages, external confirmation was needed to sustain the interior knowing. You needed things to be working well outside in order to maintain the clarity inside. The Sophia stage reverses this. The interior truth is self-sustaining. It does not require external confirmation to remain real. And the external circumstances, whatever their current state, are Kairos in process. They are being arranged. They are not the final word on where you are. Hold both things simultaneously, the interior truth of the Sophia stage and the incompleteness of the external circumstances. Hold both without forcing either to define the other. The interior confirmation system is not wrong about where you are just because the external picture has not yet caught up. And the external circumstances are not permanent just because they have not yet resolved. The Sophia stage holds both realities without being destroyed by the gap between them. That is, the sovereign response, applied to the full scope of your life. You are in the Sophia stage. The external circumstances will catch up. They always do, for the person who has done the formation and is holding the Kairos orientation. The appointed time is real, and you are real in it. I want to speak one more word about the resource that was described in this message, because for some of you, the question is still alive about whether it is the right next step. For those of you who felt the specific recognition of the whole brain synchronization piece, who felt the naming of the gap between the spiritual formation and the neurological infrastructure as a description of something you have been sensing but could not quite articulate, I want to say this simply. The recognition you felt is the inner confirmation system being accurate. Trust it. The link in the description and the pinned comment is there for the person whose spirit confirms it, not for everyone. For the person whose Sophia stage knowing says yes to what was described, if that is you, the door is open. And if it is not you, if what was described did not resonate as something you need, that is equally valid. The inner confirmation system saying no is just as trustworthy as the inner confirmation system saying yes. Either response is the Sophia stage in action. Now, let us go to the closing, because everything that has been built in this message is in preparation for what is about to be spoken. And what is about to be spoken is the most important part. Let me go deeper into the territory of what the Sophia stage teaches about resistance, because the spiritual community often treats resistance as something to be overcome or eliminated. But the Sophia stage has a more nuanced understanding of what resistance is and what function it serves. And understanding this nuance is part of what makes the Sophia stage more sophisticated than the stages that preceded it. Resistance in the Sophia stage is not treated as an enemy. It is treated as information. When resistance arises in response to something, the Sophia stage asks not, "How do I overcome this?" but "What is this telling me?" Is this the inner confirmation system indicating a genuine misalignment? Is this the voice of wisdom saying, "This path is not the right one"? Or is this the old protective pattern, the familiar response of earlier seasons, activating out of habit rather than out of genuine discernment? The difference between those two things matters enormously, because if the resistance is genuine discernment, the right response is to honor it, to say clearly, "This is not for me," and move in a different direction without guilt or second-guessing. But if the resistance is the old protective pattern, the right response is to examine it carefully and then choose whether to honor the wisdom underneath it or to set it aside in favor of the knowing that says, "This is actually aligned." The Sophia stage person has developed enough interior clarity to tell the difference between these two kinds of resistance. Not perfectly, not in every situation, but substantially and reliably, because the inner confirmation system has been developed through enough experience to recognize its own signals when it is sending them and to distinguish them from the older, less reliable signals of the protective pattern. This is one of the gifts of the long formation. The formation did not just build the positive qualities of the Sophia stage, it also refined the ability to distinguish between wisdom and defensiveness, between discernment and fear, between the inner confirmation system speaking and the old wound speaking. That refinement is itself a sign of the Sophia stage, and it is one of the most practically useful things the Sophia stage carries. Now I want to speak to one more layer of the message before we go to the closing, because there is something that belongs here that has not yet been named directly. It is the question of what you do with what you now know. You have spent this entire message receiving a framework for understanding where you are. You have heard 7 signs of the Sophia stage confirmed in you. You have been given the 3 alignment keys. You have received a vision of what the full expression of the Sophia stage looks like in your life. You have been walked through a guided activation that was designed to anchor the truth of what you carry in your body rather than just your mind. And now the question is, what do you do with all of this? Not in a strategic sense, in the deepest sense. What changes when you leave this message? What is different now from what it was before you sat down to receive these words? The answer, if this message has done what it was designed to do, is this. What changes is the quality of your self-recognition. You now have a framework that allows you to see yourself not as someone who is still on the way to something, not as someone who is still in process, still becoming, still working toward the version of themselves that will be ready for the calling. You see yourself as someone who has arrived at the Sophia stage, who is already carrying what the calling requires, who is already equipped for what is next, who is already the person that was being prepared through all the seasons of the formation. That shift in self-recognition changes everything, not because the external circumstances change immediately, but because the quality of your presence in those circumstances changes. The quality of your decisions changes. The quality of your responses changes. The quality of what you carry into every conversation and every room and every relationship changes. And all of those changes produce outcomes that compound over time into a season that looks like the calling expressing itself fully rather than the preparation continuing indefinitely. The Sophia stage is not a destination you are still approaching. It is where you already live. And what you do from here, from this stage, from this level of depth and clarity and alignment and wisdom, is the most important thing you have yet done with your life. Not because what came before was unimportant, because what came before was preparation, and preparation finds its purpose in the expression it makes possible. Express the Sophia Stage, not loudly, not with announcement, with the quiet, settled, deep authenticity that characterizes everyone who has genuinely arrived at this place. In the conversations, in the relationships, in the work. In the daily choices that seem small and prove over time to be enormous. In the moments of impact where the sovereign response changes the direction of what would otherwise be a reactive cycle. In the seasons of silence, where the deliberate stillness receives what the noise around you cannot access, express it. Because it is real, because it was earned, because the world in your sphere of influence needs what you are carrying. And because the Kairos moment for the full expression of the Sophia Stage in your specific life is not somewhere ahead on the timeline. It is right here, right now, in the season that is already upon you. You are ready. Let us close. One final word before the closing, to the person who is wondering whether what was named about them in this message is actually true. To the person who heard the 7 signs and felt the recognition but whose first impulse is to qualify it, to say, yes, but to find the ways the description does not quite fit perfectly. I want to say to you directly, the Sophia Stage has not promised you perfection, it has produced wisdom. And wisdom does not come in a form that is beyond question, or beyond growth, or beyond the ongoing work of the formation that continues until the final breath. The Sophia Stage is a genuine arrival. It is not the arrival of someone who has nothing left to learn or nowhere left to grow. It is the arrival of someone who has developed enough interior infrastructure that the learning and the growing now happen from a completely different foundation. The yes but is not evidence that the 7 signs do not apply. It is evidence that the Sophia Stage includes the humility to recognize the frontier, the places where the deepening is still in process. That humility is itself a sign of the Sophia Stage. The person who claims to have arrived at the Sophia Stage without reservation, without the acknowledgement of where the formation is still working, is probably not in the Sophia Stage. The person who recognizes the signs and simultaneously honors the frontier is exactly where the Sophia Stage lives. You are in the right place. The recognition is accurate, and the humility that wants to qualify it is not a contradiction. It is confirmation. Chosen one, we have arrived at the closing of this message. And I want to begin the closing the same way I want you to begin every day in the Sophia Stage, with gratitude. Not the performed gratitude of someone who has been taught that gratitude is spiritually required. The genuine, settled, grounded gratitude of someone who has looked clearly at what the formation has produced and who recognizes, without minimizing and without exaggerating, the weight of what it means to have arrived here. What has been built in you through the seasons we have discussed is not small. The inner confirmation system that operates independently of external approval. The capacity to dwell in silence and receive from it. The depth discernment that sees past performance to what is real. The Kairos orientation that releases you from the tyranny of Chronos. The magnetism of genuine alignment that increases synchronicities without increasing striving. The grace of the natural pruning that releases what no longer belongs. The sovereign response that allows you to feel everything without being controlled by anything. These are not small things. They are the specific capacities that every tradition of genuine wisdom has pointed toward as the marks of someone who has been genuinely formed. And they are in you, real, tested, available. Not perfect, real. Take a moment to receive that with genuine gratitude. Not gratitude as a spiritual technique, gratitude as the honest recognition of what is true. What the formation has produced is worth acknowledging, not in self-congratulation, in faithful witnessing. The formation was real. What it produced is real. And the honest acknowledgement of that, without minimizing and without exaggerating, is itself an act of the Sophia stage. I am grateful, not just for the message, for the person who has walked through everything the formation required in order to arrive at the place where this message could land in them as recognition rather than aspiration. For the person who chose depth when shallowness would have been easier, who chose truth when performance would have been more comfortable, who stayed present to the knowing when everything external was pointing in a different direction, who kept showing up to the quiet when the noise was louder and more insistent, and more socially rewarded. That person is you, and that person is worth acknowledging. Now let me go into what the closing of this message is actually doing, because the sacred closing in the Sophia stage tradition is not a ritual, it is not a formula. It is a specific kind of intentional act that is designed to leave something in the person who has received this message that stays active long after the words themselves have faded from conscious memory. The function of the sacred closing is to move what has been received from the level of the mind, where it could become just another interesting idea, down into the level of the body and the nervous system and the lived experience, where it becomes something that actually changes how you move through your days. So before I give you the release and the declaration and the final blessing, I want to explain what I am doing when I do those things, and why understanding what they are doing increases the degree to which they land in you fully. The release is not a metaphor. When I name specific weights and release them over you, what I am doing is naming the specific forms of residue that the formation tends to leave in the people who have walked through it. The heaviness of seasons that felt like abandonment, the weight of comparison with people who seem to arrive at things more easily, the grief of what was pruned before the framework for understanding pruning was in place. These are real. They are carried in real bodies, and the act of naming them specifically and releasing them publicly and intentionally is not theater. It is the sovereign response applied at scale. It is the practice of the Sophia stage creating the interior space by naming what is still occupying it and deliberately releasing it. The declaration is not wishful thinking. When I declare that what is coming will match the preparation, I am not predicting the future from ignorance. I am naming the principle that underlies the entire Sophia stage framework. The principle that genuine formation produces genuine equipping, that the specific capacities that have been built through the specific formation you have walked through are precisely calibrated to the specific calling that is being assembled for you. This is not generic encouragement. It is the application of the Sophia stage principle to your specific life. The blessing is not a performance. It is the recognition of what you carry being reflected back to you by someone who has been paying close attention to you throughout this entire message. The blessing names what is true about you, not what might be true or what you hope becomes true. What is already true about the Sophia stage person sitting in front of this message right now? And the act of receiving the blessing, rather than minimizing it or deflecting it or managing it down to something more comfortable, is itself the practice of the Sophia stage, the sovereign response applied to the truth of who you are. So when we go through those three movements of the closing, I want you to receive each one actively, not passively, as a listener. As the Sophia stage person who knows how to receive a confirmation of truth without either inflating it or diminishing it. Receive the release by genuinely releasing. Receive the declaration by genuinely receiving. Receive the blessing by genuinely being blessed, not as performance, as the practice of inhabiting what you have actually arrived at. Let me also speak to something that many Sophia stage people carry into a closing like this, the habit of preparing to carry the words outward before they have fully landed inward. The tendency to be already thinking about who you will share this with, how you will apply it, what you will do with it, even while the message is still arriving. That habit is not wrong. In fact, it is a sign of the generous orientation of the Sophia stage, the natural impulse to allow what is received to become a resource for others. But the closing of this message is not for others yet. It is for you first. Let it land completely in you before it moves through you. Sit with it a little longer than feels necessary. Let the silence after the words be a part of the receiving rather than the end of it. Let what was named have the time to move from the level of interesting to the level of real, from the level of affirming to the level of anchored, from the level of received to the level of inhabited, because what becomes anchored in you is what genuinely nourishes the people around you. Presidents, and what becomes inhabited in you is what actually changes the rooms you enter. So as we go into the closing now, I want you to take one more of those deliberate breaths, the kind that shifts the quality of your presence from active listening to active receiving. And I want you to hold the full picture of what this message has named. The 7 signs, all 7 present in you simultaneously. The inner confirmation system, live and accurate. The love of depth, real and productive. The depth discernment, refined through experience. The Kairos orientation, releasing you from the Chronos tyranny. The magnetism of alignment, active and increasing. The natural pruning, releasing what belonged to earlier seasons. The sovereign response, creating the interior space that makes all the other signs fully operational. Hold that picture, not as a list you are reviewing, as a reality you are inhabiting. This is where you are. This is who you are. This is the Sophia stage in its genuine form, present in a real person, in a real moment, in a real life that is about to enter the most significant chapter it has yet known. Now we close. Now let me release something over you, not as a ritual performed for an audience, as a genuine, specific act of releasing the weight that the formation carried with it. Because the Sophia stage does not just carry the fruit of the formation, it sometimes also carries the residue of it, the weight of what the formation cost, the memory of the seasons that were hard enough to leave their mark, the grief of what was lost along the way. I release the weight of every season that felt like abandonment when it was actually formation. I release the accusation of being too slow, too much, too sensitive, too deep, too different from what the world around you expected. I release the comparison with people who seem to arrive at things more easily or more quickly than you did. I release the grief of the connections that were pruned before you had the framework to understand what the pruning was for. I release the seasons of silence that were lonely before they became generative. I release the weight of every waiting room you have sat in, wondering if the door was ever going to open. What remains after that release is what you actually are, the Sophia stage chosen one, the person who has been formed long enough to be trusted with the depth that most people are still looking for. The person whose stability in the room is not performance but substance. The person whose knowing has been tested enough to be relied upon. The person whose compassion has depth behind it rather than just warmth on the surface. Now I want to declare something over you. I want to speak it as declaration, because declarations in the Sophia stage are not wishes. They are the speaking of what is already true into the dimension of what is heard and received. I declare that what is coming will match the preparation, not the preparation of someone who is still becoming, the preparation that is complete in you. The formation has been sufficient for the calling. The Sophia stage has equipped you for the chapter that is now beginning. I declare that the Kairos moments are accelerating, that what was gathered in the silence of the formation seasons is beginning to express itself in the external circumstances of your life. that the synchronicities are increasing, that the right people are already being positioned, that the resources are already in motion, that what has been arranged for you is real and is arriving. I declare that you are the cycle breaker, the one whose formation has equipped them to carry what earlier generations of your lineage could not yet carry, the one whose depth interrupts patterns simply by living at the level of truth rather than the level of performance, the one whose Sophia Stage presence in a room changes what is possible in the room. I declare that you are the one whose calling has been calibrated to a scale that is worthy of everything the formation required to produce you, not a lesser calling for a lesser version of yourself. The full calling, the calling that requires the full Sophia Stage to navigate. I declare that the fog that may have lingered in any area of your expression of the Sophia Stage is lifting, that the whole brain synchronization that the neurological formation is completing in you is making the interior truth of the Sophia Stage more fully available in the exterior expression of your life, that the gap between who you are spiritually and who you are expressing externally is closing. I declare that you are ready. You have been ready. The Sophia Stage is not waiting for a better version of you to step into. It is available to the version that is here, right now. And the version that is here right now is the version that was prepared for exactly this season. Type, "I am Sophia," in the comments right now. Not because you need to prove anything, not because the declaration makes something true that is not already true, but because inhabiting your identity out loud is one of the most powerful practices available to the Sophia Stage person, because the sovereign response applied to your own identity means receiving what is true about you without managing it down to something smaller, because the inner confirmation system saying yes to "I am Sophia" is the whole of what this message was designed to call forward. I am Sophia. Say it. Type it, let it be real. Now, let me say something to someone specifically. I know that there is someone listening to this right now who has been walking this path alone, not by choice. Because the depth they carry has made finding genuine spiritual companionship difficult. Because the Sophia Stage is not common, and the loneliness of being uncommon in a way that you cannot easily explain is one of the particular weights of this stage. To that person, I want to say, you are not as alone as the season has felt. The community of people who carry what you carry exists. It is not always easy to find, but it is real. And the magnetism of the Sophia Stage, sign 5, is actively at work, drawing toward you the connections that belong to your current level. They are coming. Hold the Kairos orientation about them the same way you hold it about everything else that has not yet arrived. They are being assembled. The appointed time will bring them. If this message has been the kind of depth that you have been looking for, gently press the subscribe button below and join the community of chosen ones who receive these messages when they arrive. You will not be joining a crowd. You will be joining a frequency. And frequency, not size, is what the Sophia Stage cares about. If you know someone who is carrying the weight of the Sophia Stage journey without yet having the framework to name what they are building, send this message to them now, not because I am asking for reach. Because the person whose face appeared in your mind when I described the depth discernment and the preference for quiet and the loneliness of being genuinely formed in a world that rewards the performance of certainty, that person needs these words today. They need the framework. They need the confirmation. They need to know that what they are carrying has a name. Send it to them with the kind of quiet intention that belongs to the Sophia Stage. And if this message has given you something real, if the recognition of the 7 signs has landed in your body as truth rather than just in your mind as information, Gently press the like button so that what was named here can reach the people who are still looking for the framework. Every like is not a metric. It is a declaration that something true was found here and is worth sharing. Now, I want to close with the most sacred part of this message, with the word that belongs specifically to you at the end of everything that has been named. Chosen one, you are in the Sophia stage, not approaching it, in it, not aspiring to it, inhabiting it, not becoming it, being it. Everything the formation cost was worth what it produced. Everything that was pruned to make room for what is genuinely aligned. Everything that felt like delay was Kairos gathering. Everything that felt like silence was preparation. Everything that felt like loss was the natural pruning, doing exactly what it was designed to do. You have not been abandoned in the formation. You have been formed. There is a difference. Abandonment produces people who are diminished by what they have walked through. Formation produces people who are expanded by it. Look at what you can hold now. Look at what you can feel without being swept by. Look at what you can see that others cannot yet see. Look at how you move through difficulty compared to how you once did. That is not diminishment. That is the Sophia stage expressing itself through the specific person you have become. The Sophia stage is not a consolation prize for people who had a hard journey. It is the specific fruit of a specific kind of formation that cannot be shortcut or accelerated or achieved through any other means. And you have walked the long route. You have done the real work. You have arrived at the place that the route was always pointed toward. Walk in what you have arrived at. Walk in it without apology. Walk in it without performing it for anyone else's benefit. Walk in it quietly, deeply, fully, in the way that genuine wisdom walks. Not louder than the truth. Not smaller than the truth. Exactly at the size of what is real. You are the Sophia stage. You are the wisdom carrier. You are the one whose formation has produced something the world in your sphere of influence genuinely needs and has been waiting for, even if it does not know how to ask for it. And the expression of what you carry, lived daily from the 7 signs, practiced through the 3 alignment keys, inhabited from the place of the sovereign response, is the most important contribution available to you in this season of your life. Go and live it. I am grateful for your presence in this space. I am grateful for your willingness to go deeper than the surface. I am grateful for the quality of listening you brought to everything that was named here. And I am grateful for the wisdom you carry, which even in its presence in this space has made this message more complete than it would have been without you here to receive it. You are seen. You are known. You are confirmed in the Sophia stage. And what you are carrying matters more than you know. And so it is. Now, before I give you the closing blessing, I want to walk through with you 4 specific practices that belong to the Sophia stage person in the immediate season ahead. These 4 practices are what I call the grounded movement architecture. They are not techniques you apply from a distance. They are the 4 daily movements of someone who is inhabiting the Sophia stage fully and intentionally, living from the depth rather than performing it. The first practice is the morning knowing. Before you pick up your phone, before you check your messages, before you allow the external world to set the tone for what the day is, you sit. You sit in whatever the silence of your specific morning looks like, even if it is 5 minutes, and you do one thing. You ask the inner confirmation system what it knows about this day. Not what you should do. What is already true. What is already alive. What has already been arranged. And you listen with the quality of listening that the Sophia stage has developed in you. the quality that receives without immediately analyzing, that hears without immediately judging, that receives the knowing before the mind has had the chance to translate it into worry or strategy or performance. 5 minutes of morning knowing, practiced consistently, compounds over time into the kind of interior clarity that changes the quality of everything the day produces. The second practice is the midday reset. There is a moment in every day, usually somewhere in the middle of it, when the accumulated pressure of the external world has temporarily crowded the interior space. When the sovereign response has given a little ground to the accumulated stimuli, when the Kairos orientation has been briefly captured by the Chronos demands, the midday reset is the practice of recovering the interior space in the middle of the day rather than waiting until the end of it to debrief. It does not have to be long. It can be 3 breaths taken with full consciousness. It can be 60 seconds of deliberate stillness in the middle of a busy afternoon. What it does is interrupt the accumulation before it becomes so thick that the evening debrief cannot fully clear it. The midday reset keeps the Sophia stage available throughout the day rather than only at the beginning and end of it. I want to go deeper into the midday reset practice because it addresses something that is specifically challenging for people at the Sophia stage level of formation. The challenge is this: the demands of a real life in a real world are not calibrated to the rhythm of the Sophia stage. They arrive continuously. They compete for the interior space. They create accumulation. And the person who does not have a deliberate midday practice can find that by mid-afternoon, the accumulated pressure of the day has created a kind of interior fog that is not the Sophia stage, but that feels like it simply because it is quiet in its own way. The fog of depletion is not the same as the silence of depth, and the midday reset is what clears the fog before it can be mistaken for depth. The specific form, the midday reset, takes matters less than the intentionality behind it. For some people, it is 3 conscious breaths. For others, it is 2 minutes of genuine stillness, not scrolling, not reviewing a list, not planning the next item. Just stillness. For others, it is a single question asked of the inner confirmation system. What do I actually know right now, as distinct from what the accumulated pressure of this morning has made me feel? The form is less important than the regularity, daily, without exception. Because what is done daily builds the neurological groove that makes the Sophia stage available not just in peak moments, but in the ordinary Tuesday afternoon, when the demands are high and the quiet is scarce. The third practice is the evening integration. At the end of the day, before sleep takes you, you do not review what went wrong or right. You do not perform the audit of the day against the standard of the Sophia stage. You integrate. You allow the day to settle the way sediment settles in still water. You release the day into the knowing that everything that happened served the formation in some way. Even the moments that did not look like the Sophia stage. Even the moments when the sovereign response gave way to reactivity. Even the moments when the Kairos orientation dissolved in the face of a Chronos comparison that temporarily won. You integrate all of it into the ongoing formation and release it. Not because none of it matters, because all of it served, and what served does not need to be carried into the next day. It can be integrated and released, leaving the interior space clear for what the next day brings. The fourth practice is what I call the weekly witness. Once a week, you sit with a simple question. What is the Sophia stage showing me this week that I would have missed in an earlier stage of the formation? Not what went well, not what went badly. What became visible, what was revealed, what was received through the inner confirmation system that earlier versions of you would not have been equipped to receive. The weekly witness is the practice of tracking the development of the Sophia stage over time, of noticing the compounding fruit of the formation, of witnessing the specific ways your interior life is deepening, and the specific ways that deepening is expressing itself in the exterior outcomes of your daily experience. This practice, more than any other, accelerates the movement from formation to expression, because what you consciously witness, you more fully inhabit, and what you more fully inhabit produces more of its fruit in every dimension of your life. Morning knowing, midday reset, evening integration, weekly witness. These 4 practices, built into the rhythm of the Sophia Stage life, create the conditions for the full expression of everything that the formation has produced. They are not burdensome. They are not additional items on an already full list of spiritual disciplines. They are the 4 moves that keep the Sophia Stage fully alive and fully operational. Through all the demands and pressures and opportunities and challenges of a real life in a real world, practice them, not perfectly, consistently. The consistency is what compounds. Now, I want to speak something over you that belongs to the closing of this message in a specific way, something that goes beyond the teaching and into the territory of what I was actually created to give you today. Because this message was not just a teaching about the Sophia Stage, it was a declaration, a naming, an act of calling the Sophia Stage fully forward in you by speaking it clearly, by giving it a framework, by naming the 7 signs, by honoring the formation that produced it, by positioning the expression that it makes possible. And declarations have their fullest effect when they are received completely, when the person receiving them does not minimize them into something smaller than what was spoken. When the inner voice that wants to say yes, but, or maybe for someone else, or not quite yet, is quieted by the deeper voice of the inner confirmation system saying, yes, this is real, this is you, this is true. So let me ask you one final time before we close. Is there any part of what was named today that you are tempted to minimize? Any one of the 7 signs that you want to qualify or condition or partially receive? Any piece of the declaration that you are allowing the voice of old diminishment to intercept before it fully lands? If there is, I want you to do one thing. I want you to name that piece specifically, silently, in your own awareness. Name the sign you are tempted to qualify. Name the declaration you are tempted to manage down. And then let the inner confirmation system speak to it directly, not the voice of aspiration saying this is true because I want it to be, the voice of genuine knowing saying this is true because I have experienced it, because I recognize it, because the description matches the reality I have been living. Whatever the inner confirmation system confirms in this moment, receive it without apology, without excessive qualification, without managing it down to the size that feels safe to claim. The Sophia Stage claims the full truth of where it is, not arrogantly, quietly, fully, completely, because claiming the full truth of where you are is not pride, it is faithful witnessing. And the Sophia Stage is built on faithful witnessing above almost everything else. Receive it, all of it, the 7 signs in their fullness, the formation in its completion, the calling in its arrival, the expression in its beginning, the Kairos moments in their acceleration, the declarations in their reality, all of it. Let it land completely. This is yours. You have earned it, and the world in your sphere of influence is waiting for you to inhabit it completely. Let me close with the final words that this message was always moving toward. Chosen one, you are not becoming the Sophia Stage. You are in the Sophia Stage. You have been shaped by seasons you did not always understand and have arrived at a place that the shaping was always pointed toward. The silence was generative. The stripping was purposeful. The waiting was Kairos gathering. The confusion was the formation doing its most necessary work below the surface of what was visible. And what the formation produced is real, tested, complete, available right now, in you, in this moment, in the season that is exactly upon you. Walk in it, quietly and fully, with the settled confidence of someone who has been confirmed, not by the voice of any teacher or any external authority, but by the 7 signs that live in your own experience and by the inner confirmation system that has been validated through everything the formation required you to trust it through. You are the Sophia Stage. You are the wisdom carrier. You are the cycle breaker. You are the one whose depth makes rooms different simply by your presence in them. You are the one whose knowing has been tested enough to be trusted. You are the one the Kairos moments have been assembled for. And you are ready. Go and live it. Not louder than the truth, not smaller than the truth. Exactly at the size of who you actually are. I love you. I am grateful for you. And I will see you in the next message.